Chapter 173. The plan begins. Qin Sheng and Lin Su had just started, so he was not in a hurry to go further. To him, all these would happen sooner or later. Step by step, success would come naturally. There was no need to care about this momentary impulse. Moreover, he had not fully recovered from his injury, so he really did not dare to mess around. This was also one of the reasons why he left Yu Fengji's place at the inn that day. There was nothing more comfortable than hugging the woman he loved to sleep until he woke up naturally. When he opened his eyes and saw Lin Su sleeping peacefully in his arms, Qin Sheng felt that no matter what, he had to protect this rare happiness. Lin Su was still sleeping soundly. Maybe it was because she had resigned and there was not too much pressure, so she slept so well. Or maybe it was because she was lying in Qin Sheng's arms. Qin Sheng gently pushed Lin Su away and wanted to get up to make breakfast. He enjoyed cooking, especially for the person he loved. Lin Su was like a child, reluctant to let go of Qin Sheng. She subconsciously snuggled into Qin Sheng's arms, then hugged him tightly again, which made Qin Sheng not know whether to laugh or cry. Qin Sheng tiptoed out of bed, then ran into the kitchen to make breakfast. Lin Su had everything in the kitchen, so Qin Sheng cooked some porridge, boiled eggs, made some side dishes, and ran downstairs to buy some buns and youtiao. It was already 8 o'clock when he was done with breakfast. Qin Sheng then went into the room and opened the curtains. The bedroom was instantly filled with sunlight. It was really a good day today. Qin Sheng lay beside Lin Su, touched her messy hair, and whispered, "Little lazy cat, wake up and eat breakfast." Lin Su opened her eyes in a daze and hugged Qin Sheng's neck. Her lazy look was really feminine. Qin Sheng lowered his head and kissed her forehead gently. Lin Su smiled shyly, then said, "Why are you up so early?" "Biological clock is like this. You can't change it," Qin Sheng said casually. Lin Su smiled lightly. "Then let me help you change in the future. Then you can sleep in with me." "Okay, whatever my wife says." Qin Sheng smiled and nodded. Then he directly bent over to carry Lin Su, then helped her put on her shoes and sent her to the bathroom to wash up. Qin Sheng waited outside for 10 minutes. Lin Su casually washed up and came out. Seeing the breakfast on the table, she could not help but say, "It seems that I will become a big fat person in the future. You're so thin. Isn't it better to be a little fatter? It feels meaty and comfortable to touch," Qin Sheng joked. Lin Su said coquettishly, "Rogue." The sun was shining brightly outside the window, and the house was filled with happiness. Qin Sheng and Lin Su sat opposite each other, eating breakfast with their heads lowered. Occasionally, they would raise their heads to look at each other and smile at the same time. This was the life that Lin Su wanted, as long as it was simple. After breakfast, Qin Sheng had to go to work. Lin Su was moving to her best friend's place today. Qin Sheng wanted to ask for leave to help Lin Su. Lin Su said that she did not have many things and her best friend would come to pick her up later. Qin Sheng was relieved. In the following week, Qin Sheng and Lin Su's lives were very peaceful. Qin Sheng worked step by step, and his work was also very smooth. Shangshan Ruoshui's business was getting better again. Han Jingdong was very supportive of him. Wang Haichao and the rest were also very cooperative. Yi Muyang would come to Shangshan Ruoshui every few days to look for him to brag. Occasionally, he would even bring him to mess around and get to know some rich playboys who looked very powerful but had nothing to do with him. However, their relationship was getting closer and closer. After all, Qin Sheng did not know Yi Muyang's motive. He was not God. Since Yi Muyang treated him like this, he naturally treated Yi Muyang as a friend. At night, Qin Sheng would sometimes accompany Lin Su to eat and walk around. Sometimes, he would directly go back to Shilin Huayuan and stroll around the bookstore. Then, he would start to walk into the gym again. This piece made Qin Sheng feel a little strange. Because of the matter between him and Lin Su, he did not think that Yin Chaozong or the Lin family would let him off easily. However, until now, there was no new situation, especially on Yin Chaozong's side. Previously, when he suffered such a big loss in southwest Sichuan, he actually did not have any reaction. This was very illogical. Could it be that he had given up just like that? Had he completely given up on Lin Su? It was Friday again. This week, Qin Sheng could finally take 2 days off. He was prepared to accompany Lin Su to shop around. During the weekend, he would accompany Lin Su to look for a house and find a job. With Lin Su's educational background and resume, she was still very familiar with finding a decent job. When he returned to Shilin Huayuan at night, Hao Lei and Chang Baji were already back. Chang Baji was packing up. Qin Sheng was a little puzzled and asked, "Lao Chang, what are you going to do? Didn't Han Jingdong tell you?" Chang Baji stopped and said with some surprise. Qin Sheng frowned and said, "Tell me what?" "Oh, I'm going to accompany Han Jingdong to Beijing for a business trip tomorrow. He said that he wants to go to those big clubs in Beijing to learn experience. Angie can't leave, so he asked me to go with him," Chang Baji explained. As for this normal business trip, Chang Baji did not think much about it. Han Jingdong told him that there were a lot of improvements that needed to be made in Shangshan Ruoshui, so he had to go to Beijing to learn. After a period of time, he would also go to Hong Kong. Qin Sheng nodded thoughtfully and said, "Oh, go then. You can also take a few days to relax." "Just 2 days. I'll be back on Monday morning," Chang Baji smiled and said. Chang Baji continued to pack up. Hale was playing games in the living room. He bought an Xbox a few days ago. During this period, Qin Sheng basically did not see Han Bing. Han Bing also did not send messages or call Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng more or less guessed it, but he was more or less helpless. "What is Han Bing busy with recently?" Qin Sheng asked casually. Hale did not raise his head and said, "The company is moving to Xintiandi. The Guoping group is also coming to an end. Anyway, she is very busy. Didn't she tell you?" "No." Qin Sheng shook his head and said, and then asked, "Does she already know?" "Well, how could she not know?" Hale naturally knew what Qin Sheng meant. He did not deny it and directly nodded and said, "Everyone knows about you now." "Who doesn't know?" "Sigh." Qin Sheng sighed and said. Hale put down the controller and said earnestly, "Qin Sheng, Han Bing likes you. We all know that. Even if you have no feelings for her, I think you can still be friends. Maybe she is waiting for you to tell her personally. So if you have time these 2 days, talk to her. I can see that her mental state is very bad recently." "Got it." Qin Sheng shook his head and said. Late at night, in the luxurious mansion of Thompson First Class, Yin Chaozong was still awake. He sat on the balcony and lit a cigarette. He looked at the bright lights outside and seemed to be deep in thought. He had endured for so long, and finally, it was time to show his strength. At 8 o'clock, Yi Muyang called. Yin Chaozong said in a deep voice, "Is everything arranged?" "Chang Baji has already been arranged to go to Beijing for a business trip. He will leave tomorrow morning. When do you plan to take action, and where do you plan to do it?" "I will cooperate with your plan," Yi Muyang said proudly. He was surprised that Qin Sheng did not take the bait that night. The next day, the beauty told him the whole process. This made him admire Qin Sheng more or less. Qin Sheng's self-control was really strong. He could still control himself at that time. Yin Chaozong had already arranged everything. He said slowly, "When Chang Baji leaves tomorrow, call Qin Sheng and ask him to accompany you to Mount Jihua to burn incense. It takes 5 hours to drive from Shanghai to Mount Jihua. If you can settle this tomorrow, then take action tomorrow night. You don't have to worry about the rest. I will try first, but I believe that with my silver tongue, I should be able to deal with him," Yi Muyang said confidently. Yin Chaozong sneered. "I hope so. I will wait for your good news." Yi Muyang's side was settled. Yin Chaozong still had to call Uncle Zhao to ask about the arrangements. Not long after, the call went through. Yin Chaozong said in a low voice, "Uncle Zhao, how are things on your side?" "Young master, we've already arrived at Mount Jihua. We are exploring the terrain there and looking for the best time to take action." "Don't worry," Uncle Zhao said honestly. Yin Chaozong was more or less worried. "Are you sure that the 2 experts you invited from Mount Wudong can really deal with Qin Sheng? Won't there be any accidents?" Uncle Zhao said very confidently, "Young master, let alone Qin Sheng, even Chang Baji is not a match for these 2. Don't worry, as long as he dares to come to Mount Jihua, he will definitely not be able to return." "Okay, wait for my news," Yin Chaozong said in satisfaction. After such a long time, he was waiting for an opportunity. This time, he would definitely not let Qin Sheng live. Now, he could only wait for Yi Muyang's news. In the morning, Han Jingdong's driver came to pick Changbaji up, then sent him and Han Jingdong to Beijing. Han Jingdong's assistant also came along. His assistant was a young man who had just started working these 2 days. After Qin Sheng finished his breakfast, he felt that it was about time. He was about to call Lin Su when Yi Muyang called. After Qin Sheng picked up, Yi Muyang said calmly, "I was wondering why I couldn't find you in Shangshan Ruoshui. Turns out you're on leave today. Lao Yi, why are you looking for me so early in the morning? Is there something wrong?" Qin Sheng was indeed very close to Yi Muyang during this period of time. The reason was because of the relationship between Boss Yi and Jiang Xianbang. He did not expect the motive behind it to be so insidious. Yi Muyang sighed bitterly. "Sigh, I was scolded by the old man and am in a bad mood. I want you to go out with me to relax." "Relax? Where?" Qin Sheng said casually. Yi Muyang said slowly, "My mother's health is not good recently. Plus, things are not going well for me. I want to go to Mount Jihua to burn incense." "Mount Jihua, in Anhui?" Qin Sheng frowned. "Why don't you go to the nearest Mount Putua? If hell is not empty, I swear not to become a Buddha. I believe in Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, so I want to go to Mount Jihua. After thinking about it, I want you to go with me." "Sigh," Yi Muyang explained. This was all his tricks. Qin Sheng was a little troubled. After all, he had promised Lin Su to accompany her this weekend. He frowned and said, It's only 5 hours by car. We'll go there today and burn incense tomorrow morning. We can rush back in the afternoon." Yi Muyang was afraid that Qin Sheng would not agree, so he quickly said. Qin Sheng was a little hesitant. He was quite happy that Yi Muyang thought of him. But what about Lin Su? After hesitating for a while, Qin Sheng could only put Lin Su down first. He thought that Lin Su would understand, so he nodded and said, "All right, when do we leave?" Chapter 174. The night before the storm, Yi Muyang was most afraid that Qin Sheng would reject him. He would not be able to explain to Yin Chaozong. After all, he swore that he could settle it. If this was a slap in the face, Yin Chaozong would definitely look down on him. He had always wanted to get into Yin Chaozong's big circle, but that bunch of people did not take him seriously. If he could help Yin Chaozong with this, it would be a stepping stone. Hearing Qin Sheng nod in agreement, Yi Muyang finally felt at ease. He muttered in his heart, Qin Sheng, you're a man after all. It's a pity that you offended Yin Chaozong. I can only sacrifice you. I hope you don't blame me." After hanging up, Yi Muyang immediately told Yin Chaozong the good news. He could not wait to say, "Chaozong, it's done. Qin Sheng has agreed to go to Mount Jihua." "Are you sure?" Yin Chaozong's expression changed instantly. Yi Muyang said proudly, "Why would I lie to you? I'm preparing to leave at 11 p.m. You've already arranged everything." "All right, when we arrive at Mount Jihua, someone will contact you. When you come back from Mount Jihua, I will hold a welcoming dinner for you," Yin Chaozong said excitedly. To him, as long as Qin Sheng went to Mount Jihua, he would not be able to return. Everything would be settled. After chatting with Yi Muyang, Yin Chaozong immediately gave orders to Mount Jihua. Everything was prepared according to plan, just waiting for Qin Sheng to walk into the trap. When Lin Su received Qin Sheng's call, she was playing with her best friend. She changed her clothes twice, but felt that they were not suitable. This made Tan Jing speechless. She felt that Qin Sheng, that loser, was not worthy of this from Lin Su. What did he do to deserve such a beauty like Lin Su? Hearing that Qin Sheng was going to Mount Jihua and could not accompany her to shop and look for a house, Lin Su was slightly disappointed. Other than that night, when Qin Sheng stayed over at her place, she had not seen Qin Sheng very often. They basically contacted each other through phone calls and WeChat. Any woman in love would be more or less clingy, so to not show it so obviously like Lin Su. She originally thought that Qin Sheng could accompany her on the weekends. Now that he had something to attend to, Lin Su could only stay calm. She would not get angry over such a small matter. "Why are you going to Mount Jihua?" Lin Su was confused. Mount Jihua was in Anhui Chizhou. Qin Sheng explained. Mr. Ye's son asked me to accompany him to burn incense. I'm going there today. I should be back tomorrow afternoon. I'll go to you then. I'll take a day off to accompany you on Monday. Lin Su chuckled and said, It's okay. You go ahead with your work. I'll ask Tanjing to accompany me to look for a house. She's free today anyway. Qin Sheng nodded silently as he said, That's fine. With her accompanying you, I will feel at ease. Go ahead. Remember to have lunch, Lin Su reminded him with a smile. In the past, she did not know how to care about others and always felt that she was a little cold. It was not until she confirmed their relationship that she realized that it was not like that. It was just that no one was worthy of her care. At 11 p.m., Yimyang drove a Range Rover to pick Qin Sheng up. The two of them did not bring anything with them. They went straight to Mount Jiuhua with light luggage. Yimyang seemed to be in a good mood. He always had a faint smile on his face. Qin Sheng was a little puzzled and doubtful. Yimyang smiled and said, It's really my biggest luck this year to be able to meet a brother like you. It had to be said that Yimyang's tricks were indeed deep. He advanced step by step and finally led Qin Sheng into the ditch. It was not that Qin Sheng did not have his guard up, but he did not think that Yimyang would do anything to him. After all, the relationship between Boss Yi and Jiang Xianbang was there. That was why he chose to get close to Yimyang. It took about 5.5 hours to drive from Shanghai to Mount Jiuhua. Qin Sheng and Yimyang took turns to drive. Along the way, they chatted until Yimyang fell asleep. Mount Jiuhua, also known as Mount Lingyang and Mount Jiuzi in ancient times, was one of the 4 famous mountains of Buddhism. It was located in Qingyang County, Qizhou City, Anhui Province, and had always been known as the #1 mountain in the southeast. Legend has it that it was because of the Tang dynasty's Li Bai's poem Gazing at Jiuhua for Wei Zhongkan of Qingyang, once upon a time on Jiujiang, gazing at Jiuhua Peak from afar. The Milky Way was named Mount Jiuhua because of the green water hanging in the sky. Qin Sheng believed in Buddhism. No matter if he came across a Taoist temple or a temple, he would go in and pay his respects. He would always meet interesting people and things. Among the 4 famous mountains of Buddhism, Mount Wutai in Shaanxi was Manjushri's place of worship. Mount Amei in Sichuan was Samantabhadra's place of worship. Mount Putuo in Zhejiang was Guanin's place of worship. Mount Jiuhuan Anhui was Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's place of worship. Qin Sheng liked the saying in Kittagarbha Bodhisattva's 10 Wheels scripture the most, Be patient and unmoving like the earth, calm and thoughtful like a secret. Most people knew about Kittagarbha Bodhisattva because of the saying, If hell is not empty, one will not become a Buddha. By the time they reached Mount Jiuhua, it was already 6 p.m. On the way, they rested at the service area for a while. The sky was getting dark. Yimyang and Qin Sheng reached the hotel first. The hotel was just at the entrance of the scenic area. This place looked like a small town. It was filled with old houses in the style of Jiangnan. There were small bridges, flowing water, and people. Plus, it was surrounded by mountains. The scenery was really not bad. Actually, be it Qin Sheng or Yimyang, they did not know that when they left Shanghai, there was a car that left Shanghai right after them. It was even right behind them. Yimyang had booked 2 rooms in advance. He was not willing to stay with Qin Sheng. He was afraid that Qin Sheng might find out if he received a call or something. His explanation to Qin Sheng was that he snored a little too much at night. He was afraid that it would affect Qin Sheng's sleep. Qin Sheng was even a little touched. They went back to their rooms and rested for a while. Later, they would go out for dinner and try the local specialties. After Yimyang returned to his room, he immediately sent a message to Yin Chaozong. We've arrived. Within a few minutes, Uncle Zhao called. He said politely, Welcome to Mount Jiuhua, young Master Yi. You are? Yin Chaozong asked in a low voice. Uncle Zhao chuckled and said, Our young master asked me to call you. My name is Zhao Xian. Oh, since you're from Chaozong, then just say it directly. How should I cooperate with you? And when should we take action? Yimyang said in a low voice. He wanted to hand Qin Sheng over to Yin Chaozong's people as soon as possible. It would also be considered as completing the mission. As for what they would do to Qin Sheng in the end, it had nothing to do with him. I'll send you the location. It's not far from the town, so you won't be suspected. There's a pavilion with the best view. You just need to bring him there. You don't have to do the rest. If he doesn't want to go, I'll contact you and give you a second plan. Uncle Zhao squinted his eyes. He had already planned everything that needed to be done. Now, they were just waiting for Qin Sheng to fall into the trap. So he said slowly, after dinner, use the excuse of bringing him for a stroll to drive directly to the top of this hill. I'll send you the location. All right, then I'll do as you say, Yu Muyang said thoughtfully. After a short break, Yu Muyang walked out of the room and knocked on Qin Sheng's door. When Qin Sheng opened the door, Yu Muyang said casually, "Let's go out and eat something. I heard from my friend that there's a vegetarian restaurant here that's not bad." Qin Sheng smiled and nodded. Then, the two of them left the hotel. Until then, Qin Sheng had not realized that danger was approaching. Maybe all of this was destined. From living peacefully until he graduated from university, what Qin Sheng had experienced in these few years was indeed something that many people could not experience in their entire lives. Other than vegetarian food, Mount Jihua was famous for its 18 bowls of local dishes. However, Yu Muyang was here to burn incense and worship Buddha, so he naturally would not eat meat. Hence, the two of them chose vegetarian food. During the meal, Qin Sheng and Yu Muyang talked about Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Han Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, Hinayana Buddhism, obvious Buddhism, and Tantra Buddhism. Qin Sheng talked nonstop, and Yu Muyang was stunned. He definitely did not know that Qin Sheng majored in philosophy in university and was the most outstanding student of that year. Originally, he was recommended to study abroad or directly join the youth league committee, but Qin Sheng was unwilling. Those who majored in philosophy would naturally study religion. Qin Sheng, who liked these things, researched more deeply than others. After the meal, Yu Muyang picked his teeth with a toothpick. That sloppy look revealed the nature of a rich playboy. He smiled and said, "I have nothing to do after eating. It's so early, I really can't sleep. My friend said that there's a sea view pavilion on the mountain not far from here. At night, it's surrounded by clouds and mist. It has a unique flavor. Why don't we go there and take a walk?" Yu Muyang said it very cautiously. It seemed like he said it casually, but he was actually very careful. Qin Sheng thought for a moment and said, "The starry sky tonight is very bright. I've stayed in Shanghai for a long time and got used to the flashing neon lights. It's very hard to see such a beautiful night sky. Then let's go. It's already dark. Come back earlier. I'm afraid it'll be cold if it's too late." Yu Muyang said hurriedly, afraid that Qin Sheng would regret. Qin Sheng and Yu Muyang immediately set off. Qin Sheng drove, and Yu Muyang navigated, afraid that they would go the wrong way. The Seaview Pavilion was not far from here. It would only take more than 10 minutes to drive there. Standing on a mountaintop, they could overlook the entire town. They could also look at the scenic area of Mount Jihua on the opposite side. Whether it was day or night, the scenery was very beautiful. Along the way, other than giving directions, Yu Muyang basically did not say any nonsense. He was afraid that he would expose himself if he was too nervous. After more than 10 minutes, they finally arrived. Qin Sheng asked, "What should we do next?" Yu Muyang turned off his phone and pointed to a place not far away. "Stop the car here. The Seaview Pavilion is over there. We could just walk there." Hence, the two of them got off the car and walked to the Seaview Pavilion. To Yu Muyang, that was Qin Sheng's home and also his blessed land. When the Range Rover appeared, Uncle Zhao, who had been hiding in the forest, was all smiles. He called Yin Chaozong and said, "Young master, he's here. I'll wait for your news. I hope you won't disappoint me this time." Yin Chaozong sneered. Uncle Zhao said confidently, "Don't worry, young master. Unless he's an immortal, he definitely won't be able to walk out of here tonight." When the Range Rover went up the mountain, a Jeep Wrangler also followed. However, it followed very far away, afraid that it would be discovered. The driver was a middle-aged man. His hair was all white. If one did not know the man's age, one might think that he was already in his 50s or 60s. The man did look a little old. His face was full of wrinkles. This was a mountain road with no forks in the middle. Hence, he was not worried about getting lost at all. To be able to follow them from Shanghai to Mount Jiuhua, this man was quite capable. Chapter 175. Chapter 174. Come on. After walking for a few minutes with Qin Sheng, they finally arrived at Seaview Pavilion. The view here was wide, and they could see the night view of the small town below. Lifting their heads, they could see the few most dazzling peaks of Mount Jiuhua, as well as the bright starry sky above their heads. It was just that the weather tonight was too good. A bright moon hung high in the sky. If it was foggy, they could even see the sea of fog and clouds. That was why this place was called Seaview Pavilion. When Yi Muyang and Qin Sheng arrived, Uncle Zhao had already arrived earlier with his subordinates. Other than Uncle Zhao, there were 5 other people. 2 of them were experts that he had invited. The other 2 blocked the shaded path leading to the Seaview Pavilion in case someone messed up their plan. What a great view! Yi Muyang stood in the Seaview Pavilion and sighed as he looked into the distance. He could not help but light up a cigarette and tossed one to Qin Sheng too. Closing one's eyes in such a treasured place, he could be reincarnated into a good family in his next life. In his next life, he had to be low-key and not overestimate himself. Of all people to go against, he had to go against a ruthless person like Yin Chaozong. Qin Sheng remained silent. At this moment, he was in a pretty good mood. If Yi Muyang was by his side instead of Lin Su, it would be even more perfect. In the past, Qin Sheng liked to walk around alone without saying a word. Now, Qin Sheng was more willing to have Lin Su accompany him no matter where he went, to share every exciting second of his life with him. Yi Muyang's mood was even better than Qin Sheng's, because he had successfully completed his mission. Next, it was time for him to enjoy the rewards. In the future, he would follow Yin Chaozong to drink wine and eat meat. Everything would be smooth sailing. Qin Sheng, thank you. Yi Muyang was already prepared to lay all his cards on the table with Qin Sheng. Anyway, at this time, Yi Muyang did not want to hide anymore. The earlier he finished, the earlier he could go back to sleep. He would leave the rest to Yin Chaozong's people. However, this gratitude was from the bottom of his heart. Yi Muyang suddenly thanked him. Qin Sheng did not understand and asked, "Why did you say thank you?" "Because you let me see a better tomorrow and brought me benefits that are within reach. Naturally, I have to thank you." Yi Muyang slowly retreated out of the Seaview Pavilion and started to keep a distance from Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng still did not understand. He frowned and asked, "What do you mean?" "At this time, I don't intend to hide it from you anymore. I'll tell you the truth." Yi Muyang stared at Qin Sheng and chuckled. The look in Qin Sheng's eyes changed slightly, as if he was wondering what was going on. "Are you really naive to think that I got close to you only because of my old man's relationship with Jiang Xianbang? Even if Jiang Xianbang and my old man are sworn brothers, what does that have to do with me, let alone a loser from a poor family like you? Why would I like you? I hate Phoenix men like you the most. You don't have much ability, but you're quite ambitious." Yi Muyang started to mock Qin Sheng wantonly. This kind of crushing of IQ gave him a sense of achievement. Qin Sheng's expression changed slightly. He felt that something was not right. Yi Muyang's meaning was already very obvious. He approached him with a purpose. Could it be because of Yin Chaozong? That was impossible. But to be honest, I quite admire you. You have a lot of good points. I've learned a lot during this period of time. But what you shouldn't have done is snatch Yin Chaozong's girlfriend. What a pity. Yi Muyang finally said his final answer. At this time, he was already 3 meters away from Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng came to his senses instantly and stared at Yi Muyang. His expression was very ugly. It was really Yi Muyang. Then all of this was a trap set up for him. From the time Yi Muyang knew him until now, it was all part of their plan. Then Yi Muyang asking him to accompany him to Mount Jiuhua was not to burn incense. Not to burn incense? Then why? No matter how stupid Qin Sheng was, he understood. Otherwise, Yi Muyang would not have said all these. Yi Muyang, F***CKU. Qin Sheng roared angrily. Yi Muyang chuckled and said, "Don't be angry, Qin Sheng. Haven't you always been very calm? What's the use of being angry at this time?" Don't blame me. You can only blame yourself. Why don't you take a look at yourself? What qualifications do you have to have a beauty like Lin Su? Even I envy and hate you, not to mention Yin Chaozong's anger. Qin Sheng was indeed very angry. But just like what Yi Muyang said, being calm would not solve the problem. He should first figure out his own situation. For Yi Muyang to say this, it meant that everything was not so simple. For example, Yi Muyang bringing him here might be part of the plan. It seemed that this was already a place of great danger. It was definitely not just Yi Muyang. Then what should he do? Falling into a dead end. How could he get out of this situation? Why did you want to harm me? Qin Sheng asked coldly. Yi Muyang laughed out loud and said, why? It's definitely for benefits. Without benefits, I don't care who you are. These are all arranged by young Master Yin. So don't hate me. If you want to hate someone, hate him. You snatched young Master Yin's woman. Young Master Yin will definitely punish you. So he gave me some benefits to lure you into this trap that he has set up. After it's done, he will definitely not mistreat me. You have no relationship with me at all. Of course, I will sacrifice you. This is reality. Anyone would do that. Qin Sheng stopped talking. It was useless to say anything. He should be prepared to face the upcoming predicament. All right, let's not talk anymore. You've had a good meal just now. Prepare to go. If I can still remember you, I will burn some incense for you every year on this day. I've done my best. I'll leave the rest to young Master Yan's subordinates. I'll send you on your last journey. I'll go back first, Yi Muyang said calmly. When Yi Muyang said his last words, Uncle Zhao had already walked out slowly with two subordinates. Both Qin Sheng and Yi Muyang saw them. My task is done. I'll leave the rest to you. Yi Muyang walked in front of Uncle Zhao and smiled. Uncle Zhao said politely, Young Master Yi, you've worked hard. My young master is in Shanghai to welcome you back. Just a small matter. I'll leave first, Yi Muyang said casually. Following that, he shouted at Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng, see you in the next life. Qin Sheng laughed at himself. He understood everything now. Yi Muyang approached him step by step, relying on the relationship between Shangshan Ruoshui and Jiang Xianbang, bossy. Maybe it was because of his trust and good impression. And because he wanted to develop in Shangshan Ruoshui, he had to take Yi Muyang seriously. When everything was ready, he was ready to take action. Thinking about it, arranging for Chang Baji to go on a business trip to Beijing was also a step in Yin Chaozong's plan. After all, Yin Chaozong had suffered a huge loss during that time in southwest Sichuan. He would not make the same mistake again. After that, he asked Yi Muyang to lure him out of Shanghai and come to Mount Jihua to burn incense and worship Buddha. This Seaview Pavilion should be a place that they had carefully selected. This plan was really flawless. Qin Sheng really could not blame anyone but himself. It was his fault for being careless. It was his fault for trusting Yi Muyang so easily. It was his fault for thinking too highly of himself. Yi Muyang left just like that, leaving Qin Sheng in the Seaview Pavilion. Uncle Zhao stared at Qin Sheng with a smile. He waved his hand, and the two experts from Wudong Mountain surrounded Qin Sheng from the front and back. In front of them was a cliff. It was at least 100 meters deep. If Qin Sheng dared to jump, he would only die. They would not have to worry anymore. Qin Sheng, I send my regards to you on behalf of my young master. You didn't expect this, did you? Uncle Zhao said with a smile. This plan was designed and arranged by him. Now, it was finally time for it to end. At this moment, Qin Sheng was no longer in the mood to think about Yi Muyang, because he had to face the situation in front of him. He said helplessly, Yin Chaozong really refuses to give up on killing me. Even if our young master lets you off, the Yin family will not let you off. You abducted the precious daughter of the Lin family and ruined the marriage between the Yin and Lin family. If the Yin family lets you off, the Lin family will not let you off either. Your ending was already determined the moment you chose Miss Lin. It was just a matter of time. We were careless the last time in southwest Sichuan and let you escape. We suffered a great loss. One of us was seriously injured and the other was lightly injured. There's nothing we can do about it. That friend of yours, Chang Baji, is indeed powerful. But this time, without him around, do you think you can still leave this place alive? Uncle Zhao said disapprovingly. To him, The current Qin Sheng was just a dead man. What a perfect plan. I'm convinced. Don't think that I'll admit defeat just because of this. Even if I die here, I'll drag you guys down with me. If I'm lucky enough to get out alive, I'll definitely not let Yin Chaozong down, Qin Sheng said while clenching his teeth. Anyway, it had already come to this. He did not care what harsh words he said. Uncle Zhao laughed and said, "Do you think you have a chance of getting out alive today? How would you know if you don't try?" Even if Qin Sheng died, he would definitely die standing. He would definitely not die kneeling, nor would he admit defeat. But don't worry. I believe that even if I die, there will be someone who will avenge me. Don't forget to remind Yin Chaozong to be careful. Qin Sheng was not willing to be at a disadvantage at any time. Even now, it was the same. Qin Sheng was never afraid, because fear could not solve the problem. He did not want to die either, because if he died, many people would be sad for him. His ambition had yet to be realized. He had yet to enjoy his great life. He still wanted to accompany Lin Su for the rest of his life. So even if there was no hope today, he would create a miracle. He had faced death many times, and Qin Sheng was lucky enough to survive. What about today? What's the use of saying all these? You can talk fast, but it won't change your ending. If it were me, I'd better think about how to face the situation in front of me. Uncle Zhao looked down on Qin Sheng. He felt that the reason why Qin Sheng could escape alive the last time was because of Chong Baji, who was extremely powerful. But this time, Qin Sheng was facing the two experts he invited alone. It was impossible for him to leave alive. One must know that the skills of these two people were even better than Uncle Zhen and Feng He. Qin Sheng took off his bulky down jacket and slowly walked out of the Seaview Pavilion. He took 2 deep breaths. In such an environment, if he used all his strength to fight a battle, it would be worth it even if he died. "Come on." Qin Sheng bent his legs slightly and said to the 2 men who seemed to have extraordinary skill surrounding him. Chapter 176. That was it. The scariest thing in life was to be mediocre all your life while comforting yourself that being ordinary was precious. Which man dared to say that he had no ambition, aspirations, and ideals? It was just that you were gradually worn down by life and reality. You were either too conceited because you were not strong enough, or you were not down to earth when you had time, or you daydreamed about success. In the end, you were defeated and completely surrendered. Those who were unwilling to be mediocre and really wanted to succeed would never lower their heads and admit defeat. No matter how difficult and tortuous life was, they would grit their teeth and move forward. The more setbacks they encountered, the braver they became until they achieved their goals. Qin Sheng was like that. He did not want to be an ordinary person. If one did not live a wonderful life, how would the world know that he had been here before? Therefore, he would not admit defeat today. He would not rest until he died. There were 2 men, one in front and one at the back. One had long hair with a bun on the top of his head. He also had a beard and a beard. He looked more like a Taoist priest. Although he was a little skinny, he gave off a valiant aura. The man at the back looked ordinary, but Qin Sheng felt that he was more dangerous. They were about the same height, but he only wore a sweater in such a cold weather. His eyes were filled with murderous intent in the dark, which made Qin Sheng very afraid. When the 2 men rushed towards Qin Sheng, he did not dare to sit still. He knew that he did not have the ability to fight 1 against 2. Moreover, he had not recovered from his injuries in southwest Sichuan. Therefore, he chose to rush towards the Taoist priest to give himself a chance to breathe. In the blink of an eye, Qin Sheng was fighting with the Taoist priest. The Taoist priest was as light as a swallow. When he was about to get close to Qin Sheng, he jumped into the air with the tip of his toes and kicked towards Qin Sheng's face. Qin Sheng was calm in the face of danger. He felt that the Taoist priest's punches and kicks were full of strength. If he was really hit, he would definitely suffer internal injuries. Therefore, he quickly dodged to the side. Uncle Zhao, who had nothing to do and could only watch the show, slowly walked towards the Seaview Pavilion. He lit a cigarette and took out a pot of Hongshui liquor from his pocket. In this weather, he could only rely on liquor to warm his body. Below the cliff was a quiet town, but here was a bloody storm. It was a huge contrast. To him, Qin Sheng's ending was only a matter of time. Before the Taoist landed on the ground, Qin Sheng hit his back with his knee. Today, he did not hold back his strength at all. Only by going all out could he leave this place alive. The Taoist priest's reaction was very fast, and his body was even more agile. He leaned forward and bent his waist to avoid the attack. At this moment, Qin Sheng felt that the man behind him was already close to him. A gust of wind from a fist was coming towards him. Qin Sheng quickly turned around and directly used both his arms to block the man's arms. The man took advantage of his body and advanced. With a drunken crouch and sinking elbow, Qin Sheng did not expect this. This elbow hit Qin Sheng's chest. Qin Sheng staggered back 2 steps. Before he could come back to his senses, the man behind him kicked him in the back. Qin Sheng staggered forward and almost fell to the ground. Obviously, Qin Sheng was no match for both of them. Even if he were to face one of them alone, he might not be able to win. Both of you can be considered experts. Isn't it a little overkill to deal with a small fry like me? Since he could not defeat Qin Sheng, he could only use the method of provocation. It would be best if it was a one-on-one fight. That way, he would have a higher chance of winning. However, these two would not fall for this trick. The Taoist priest said calmly, "I took the money and helped to eliminate disasters. I have no choice but to offend you. I don't know which sect you belong to. I also have a good relationship with the Taoist school. My grandfather and Taoist priest Ruin of Lu Guantai are good friends. I also often go to the ancestral court of the Chuanjin sect to drink tea. I also have some friendship with Longhu Mountain and Wudong Mountain." Qin Sheng began to build a relationship. What he said was also the truth. After listening to Qin Sheng's words, the Taoist priest frowned slightly. He seemed to be slightly surprised. However, he still said with a heart of stone, "Even if you know my master, this is a different matter. I can't let you go today." The tall man looked a little impatient. He snorted and said, "You really talk a little too much nonsense." After saying that, he took the lead and rushed towards Qin Sheng again. He swung his arm towards Qin Sheng. In an instant, he was in front of Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng had no way to retreat. He could only stretch out his arms to block. In the next second, he felt the terrifying strength of this man. The shock made his arms numb. Qin Sheng was also angry. He suddenly jumped up and hit the man's head with his elbow. This man did not dodge at all. Instead, he attacked Qin Sheng's abdomen with a heavy punch. Both of them hit each other almost at the same time. Although the man's head was hit hard, he did not move at all. However, Qin Sheng, who jumped up, was directly hit by this heavy punch and fell heavily on the ground. His abdomen was in pain as if it was cut by a knife. The Taoist priest did not make a move just now. Maybe because of Qin Sheng's relationship with the Taoist school, he held back. Uncle Zhao, who was not far away, saw this and could not help but be annoyed. "Taoist priest, what do you mean by this?" The Taoist priest looked at Uncle Zhao and nodded silently. Then, he and the man walked towards Qin Sheng again. Qin Sheng slowly climbed up, covered his abdomen, and snorted coldly. "Continue." This time, the Taoist priest took the lead. With 2 leaps, he arrived in front of Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng, who was half kneeling on the ground, was like a cheetah. When the Taoist priest got close, he instantly pounced on him. The Taoist priest grabbed Qin Sheng's shoulder. Qin Sheng would definitely not be caught without putting up a fight. He did not care about those tricks and directly attacked the Taoist priest's vital parts. The Taoist priest used his leg to block Qin Sheng's knee. The two of them were entangled together. Qin Sheng's chest was hit by the Taoist priest's consecutive punches. He felt as if his ribs were broken and his lungs were cut by a knife. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. In the end, he was kicked on the shoulder by the Taoist priest and flew out again, just when he landed on the ground. The man followed up and did not give Qin Sheng a chance to take a breather. Qin Sheng had no choice but to fight again. However, he was already injured. After being seriously injured again, how could he be the man's opponent? His face took 2 heavy punches from the man and instantly became a bloody mess. At this moment, Qin Sheng's consciousness started to blur. He could not help but miss Chong Baji. If Chong Baji was here, perhaps he would not have suffered such a big loss today. With another heavy kick, the man kicked Qin Sheng's calf. Qin Sheng felt that his bones were broken at that moment, and he lost all feeling in his leg. When he used all his strength to give the man a final blow, he was no longer a threat. He was hit by the man's strong and heavy shoulder and was sent flying again. Qin Sheng's eyes lit up. At this moment, Qin Sheng was already a bloody mess. He was on the verge of death. He had never been so miserable before. This time, he really suffered a big loss. Even during the 2 years of traveling, he had never put himself in such a desperate situation. Qin Sheng did not know how to evaluate what he had done during this period of time. If he could really live, this experience would be a baptism from top to bottom. He would reflect on himself. Uncle Zhao felt that it was about time. He extinguished the cigarette and walked over. He smiled and said, "Qin Sheng, do you regret it?" Qin Sheng endured the huge pain and coughed. "Regret? You scolded the neighbor." The smile on Uncle Zhao's face disappeared instantly. He snorted and said, "You really don't know what's good for you. I originally wanted to let you suffer less. Look at you now. You won't cry until you see the coffin. Tell Yin Chaozong that even if I die, Lin Su will never choose him. At least in this round, Yin Chaozong will never win against me." "Ha ha." Qin Sheng laughed presumptuously. However, after 2 laughs, he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The driver was Qin Ran, who had just returned from working overtime. She thought of her younger brother inexplicably at night. Her mind was filled with her younger brother's voice and smile when he was young. Originally, she planned to return home after working overtime until 10 o'clock. Qin Ran had to hurry back home. On the way back, she almost hit the rear of the car several times. Qin Ran had no choice but to park the car by the roadside and plan to go home slowly. Otherwise, she would get into a car accident sooner or later. Be it Lin Su, Qin Ran, or Qin Chang'an, they naturally did not know that their beloved Qin Sheng was going through the most dangerous moment in his life. Maybe it was because their hearts were connected that they had such a strange feeling. Mount Jiuhua, Seaview Pavilion. Qin Sheng fell to the ground again. This time, he could not get up no matter how hard he tried. His consciousness had started to blur. At this moment, he seemed to have accepted his fate and knew that he could not turn the situation around. Could it be that this was the end of his life? Was he really going to die here? Qin Sheng was somewhat unwilling to die like this. He had too many things that he had not done and too many favors that he had not returned. It seemed that it was going to be a regret in the end. What a real man. The man who was as powerful as the Taoist priest sighed with emotion. The Taoist priest also sighed and said, "What a pity." Uncle Zhao had already walked over. He knew that everything should have been settled. All that was left was to deal with the final situation. Looking at Qin Sheng, who was still struggling on the ground, not far from death, he shook his head and said, "You can't blame others. You chose all of this yourself. How should we deal with it?" The Taoist priest frowned and asked. Uncle Zhao squinted and said, "Kill him and throw his body into the deep mountains." The man beside him nodded and said, "Okay." Just when the Taoist priest and the man were about to take action, the man who had followed them all the way to Mount Jiuhua in a Wrangler finally appeared. He parked the car far away, fearing that he would be discovered. After that, he sneaked over on foot and killed the 2 men left by Uncle Zhao in the forest. The man walked slowly toward Uncle Zhao and the others and said calmly, "Such a beautiful moonlight. It is indeed a bit of a pity not to kill a few people." Chapter 177. The dust has settled. Zongheng has prepared generous gifts, including 2 Kindle e-readers, a Panda Water cup, and a custom-made T-shirt and USB drive for the strongest counterattack. Are you tempted? Then come and join the event. Most importantly, on the 17th, to thank everyone, Old Guan will release at least 2 chapters and at most 3 chapters. If you don't have a Zongheng app, hurry up and download it. The man holding the Mitsubishi Army knife was the man who drove the Jeep Wrangler from Shanghai to Mount Jiuhua. He was Zhuang Zhou, the powerful Tiger Man sent by Qin Chang'an. Gongsun was nicknamed the Grim Reaper in the circle of Sijio City. He had done many earth-shattering things. However, In front of Zhuangzhou, Gong Sun felt inferior. In his words, even 3 Gong Suns were not Zhuangzhou's match. How did Qin Chang'an subdue this big boss? This was all in the future. Which powerful big boss did not have a legendary and complicated experience? Zhuangzhou, who was also a soldier and was part of the first batch of special forces in the Beijing military region, was once predicted by a big boss to become a general. Therefore, when Gong Sun heard that Qin Chang'an had sent Zhuangzhou to Shanghai to protect the young master, he was completely relieved. With Zhuangzhou's strength, he did not believe that anyone could threaten the young master. At this moment, this man, who often acted as a consultant and coach in the military special forces, was a little angry. He did not expect things to be so serious, and this group of people actually set up such a trap. Looking at Qin Sheng, who was lying on the ground unconscious, Zhuangzhou held the Mitsubishi Army knife tightly. His whole body was filled with murderous intent, and he walked step by step towards Uncle Zhao and the rest. He had not killed for a long time, and he really wanted to practice tonight because they had challenged his bottom line. His ancestral home was Zhangzhou. Both his grandfather and father were martial arts grandmasters and had a relationship with Old Master Qin. He was indebted to the Qin family. Back then, if Old Master Qin had not used his connections to protect him through difficulties, he might not be alive today. Therefore, the Qin family's business was his business. As long as Qin Chang'an had any orders, he would not say no. Moreover, after so many years, Qin Chang'an rarely spoke to him. Some time ago, he had been training a batch of rookies in the Southern Theater of Operations. Gong Sun had called him and told him that Qin Chang'an had asked him to go to Shanghai to protect a man. Zhuangzhou had wondered what kind of person was worth Qin Chang'an asking him to go to Shanghai personally. However, after seeing the man and knowing his name, Zhuangzhou finally understood. He was almost 100% sure that this young man was Qin Chang'an's son, who had been missing for 20 years. In other words, he was the grandson that Old Master Qin had taken away. Because of this, Zhuangzhou had to put in more effort in case something happened and he could not answer to Qin Chang'an. However, the trap set by this group of people today almost made him lose his face to see Qin Chang'an. How could Zhuangzhou not be angry? After hearing what Zhuangzhou said, Uncle Zhao and the rest were shocked. They looked at Zhuangzhou, who was not far away, almost at the same time. Their expressions changed slightly, and they looked at each other. They did not expect that at this last moment, a strange man would appear. At this moment, they were very clear that this man was definitely not a friend, but an enemy. For him to be standing here, they guessed that the 2 men guarding outside had already met with misfortune. "Who are you?" Uncle Zhao took 2 steps forward and asked. He was close to 50 years old, 8 meters tall, with short hair and an expressionless face. This was Zhuangzhou. He said coldly, "You are not qualified to know who I am." The Taoist priest and the man blocked Zhuangzhou's way. They snorted and said, "If you don't want to die, then get lost. With just the 2 of you, how dare you talk about death in front of me? You really overestimate yourself." Zhuangzhou squinted and said, "I really don't know where you get the courage to touch a man from the Qin family. Then I will let you know what kind of price you will have to pay." Uncle Zhao could not be bothered. He did not think that this man was much of a threat. After all, there were 2 masters in front of him, the Taoist priest and White Wolf. They were hired by him with a lot of money and connections. Even if Chang Baji was here, he might not lose, let alone this clown. "Go, kill him," Uncle Zhao ordered without hesitation. He did not want to continue to waste time in case there were more problems. However, what the man said made Uncle Zhao fall into deep thought. A man from the Qin family. Could it be that this Qin Sheng really had a powerful background? They did not investigate clearly at all, but at this moment, Uncle Zhao could not care about these things. Zhuangzhou was even more unwilling to waste time. He had to end the battle quickly to bring Qin Sheng away. Qin Sheng's current situation was not optimistic. It was very likely that he would die from excessive blood loss. So when the Taoist priest and White Wolf rushed over, Zhuangzhou raised the Mitsubishi Army knife in his hand and faced them head-on. The bloodthirsty Mitsubishi Army knife shone with a cold light, as if it was very excited. He had not lost a single battle in the army for 5 consecutive years. He was always in the top 3 in all military training programs. He had carried out many missions abroad. When it came to killing people, Zhuangzhou was more professional than anyone present. It could be seen from his evil and gloomy aura that made people shudder. The Mitsubishi Army knife in Zhuangzhou's hand had been with him for 20 years. When it came to using army knives, if he dared to say that he was the best in the whole north, no one would dare to say that they were second. So when Zhuangzhou, with the army knife in his hand, faced the Taoist priest and White Wolf, it was the slaughter of a lion hunting a rabbit. No matter how powerful they were still his prey. Just when the two sides were about to exchange blows, Zhuangzhou directly threw the Mitsubishi Army knife out and then rushed towards the two of them. It arrived almost at the same time as the Mitsubishi Army knife. He then caught it firmly and turned around. The 3 army knives drew a smooth arc, causing the Taoist priest to take a few steps back. If he was scratched, it would be very difficult for the wound to heal. Feeling the wind from White Wolf's fist behind him, Zhuangzhou directly flipped his body and kicked White Wolf's arm. The army knife in his left hand was thrown to his right hand. He got up and stuck close to White Wolf's whip kick. Like dancing ballet, he made a series of turns. His footsteps were really as fast as lightning. When the whip kick's strength and arc reached its peak, the army knife in Zhuangzhou's hand had already pierced into White Wolf's back. White Wolf never thought that the man in front of him would be so powerful. Just one move, and he was seriously injured. White Wolf roared. Zhuangzhou did not care about his life or death. He gripped the Mitsubishi Army knife tightly and spun the knife. He exerted force on his feet and sprinted forward. He directly pulled out the army knife. White Wolf's back instantly spurted out blood. Why did Zhuangzhou like the Mitsubishi Army knife? Apart from the feelings of being in the army for so many years, the most important reason was that in his eyes, the Mitsubishi Army knife was the fastest cold weapon to kill the enemy in combat other than hot weapons. After the Mitsubishi Army knife pierced into the human body, the blood would be discharged through the blood groove. When the muscles contracted, they would not be able to stick to the surface of the bayonet. This way, the bayonet could be easily pulled out of the human body to carry out the next step. At the same time, the blood groove would quickly draw in air. The air would form an air plug in the human body to block the blood vessels. And the punctured wound was generally a square hole. The various sides of the wound could not compress together to achieve a certain degree of hemostasis and healing. Also, this kind of wound was very difficult to treat and bandage. After the bayonet pierced into the opponent's body, rotating the knife would cause a large area of tissue destruction. If there were tendons or blood vessels inside, what was the point of stitching up the surface? This was also why Zhuangzhou had rotated the knife just now. Because of this, the Mitsubishi Army knife's fatality rate was very high. This was also Zhuangzhou's terrifying point. When Zhuangzhou stabbed the bayonet into White Wolf's body, this White Wolf was basically useless. But Zhuangzhou did not stop there. He wanted to kill all the men here today. Otherwise, he would not be able to vent the anger in his heart. So after turning around, Zhuangzhou once again attacked White Wolf. This time, his target was White Wolf's chest. It would be best if he stabbed the bayonet directly into the heart and killed it in one blow. At this time, the Taoist priest blocked Zhuangzhou's path. He continuously kicked Zhuangzhou's chest and wrists. After Zhuangzhou dodged several attacks, before the Taoist priest was exhausted, he loosened the dagger in his hand and grabbed the Taoist priest's ankle without hesitation. If there was a slow-motion camera, it would be possible to see that Zhuangzhou's fingers were already deformed. But in order to end the battle quickly, Zhuangzhou could not care about that. When he grabbed the Taoist priest's ankle, he had already caught the bayonet with both hands. Without any hesitation, he reached out with lightning speed and stabbed the bayonet into the back of the Taoist priest's thigh. The Taoist priest's expression instantly changed. He used all his strength to turn around and kicked Zhuangzhou's shoulder with his left leg. Zhuangzhou retreated a few steps before stopping. The bayonet in his hand was once again bloodthirsty. "This is your strength," Zhuang Zhou sneered. Uncle Zhao, who witnessed the whole process, was panicking. Uncle Zhao, who had witnessed the entire process, panicked. He knew that it was impossible for him to kill Qin Sheng tonight. He had prepared for such a long time, but something had happened at the last moment. Uncle Zhao was very angry. However, he had no other choice now. This man was too powerful. He was probably a few levels higher than Changbaji. The Taoist priest and White Wolf were no match for him. Now that they were both injured, he had to think of a way to escape first. Otherwise, he would not even have a last chance. So, while Zhuang Zhou was not paying attention, Uncle Zhao started to slowly move towards the forest. How could Zhuang Zhou let him run? He snorted coldly. "Want to run?" Seeing that he had been discovered, Uncle Zhao ran without hesitation. He did not want to die here. But how could he be faster than Zhuang Zhou? Zhuang Zhou rushed over and kicked Uncle Zhao's back. Uncle Zhao staggered and fell to the ground. Zhuang Zhou then followed up and grabbed Uncle Zhao from the ground. He directly stabbed the bayonet into Uncle Zhao's chest. Uncle Zhao, who thought that he was a genius, died in Zhuang Zhou's hands just like that. His expression was very ferocious. It was obvious that he did not die in peace. After dealing with Uncle Zhao, Zhuang Zhou turned around and looked at the Taoist priest and White Wolf. The Taoist priest was half kneeling on the ground and was treating his wounds. But no matter what he did, he could not stop the bleeding. Seeing that Uncle Zhao had died, White Wolf instantly felt that something was wrong. He also planned to escape. Naturally, Zhuang Zhou would not give him the chance. He said that everyone present today had to die. The two of them looked at each other and acted almost at the same time. When they reached the range of his ability, Zhuang Zhou directly threw the bayonet at White Wolf. In the next second, the bayonet directly stabbed into White Wolf's calf. White Wolf lost his footing and instantly fell to the ground. When he got up, Zhuang Zhou was already in front of him. A domineering kick landed on his head. White Wolf saw stars and felt dizzy. He did not have the strength to fight back at Zhuang Zhou. Zhuang Zhou pulled out the bayonet and jumped up high. He directly stabbed the bayonet into White Wolf's neck. White Wolf's huge body fell to the ground with a loud bang. He could not get up anymore. There was only one prey left. When Zhuang Zhou walked in front of the Taoist priest suddenly knelt down and begged for mercy, "Spare my life." The Taoist priest did not choose to escape. He was very clear in his heart that it was impossible for him to escape after one of his legs was crippled. He could only obediently admit defeat and hope that this devil would spare his life. "Give me a reason," Zhuang Zhou said sinisterly. The Taoist priest hurriedly said, "From today onwards, I will enter the mountains to cultivate. I will wholeheartedly do good and will not do evil. If I disobey, I will not have a good death." "I don't believe you," Zhuang Zhou directly rejected. Hearing this, the Taoist priest knew that it was over. Seeing danger approaching, how could he just let himself be captured? He had to use all his strength to survive. A few silver needles appeared in his hands out of nowhere. Without any warning, he stabbed towards Zhuang Zhou's face. Zhuang Zhou had seen this kind of trick many times. When the Taoist priest was about to succeed, Zhuang Zhou's samling bayonet had already pierced into the Taoist priest's heart. Because his speed was faster than the Taoist priest's, his timing was faster. At this moment, the Taoist priest's movement suddenly stopped, and he fell heavily to the ground. Everything had settled. Zhuang Zhou looked coldly at the few corpses on the ground. A sin caused by heaven could be forgiven, but a sin caused by oneself could not be forgiven. Everything was brought upon by themselves. Looking at Qin Sheng, who was lying on the ground not far away and was already in danger, Zhuang Zhou's face looked terrible. He hurriedly walked over, carried Qin Sheng, and ran towards the parking lot without hesitation, because he knew that Qin Sheng could not die. Chapter 178. What was going on? Don't forget, at 7 p.m. on the 17th, there will be an event in the Circle of Zongheng app. I'm still waiting to send my gift. Prepare your questions. Zhuang Zhou was in an extremely bad mood now, because Qin Sheng's condition did not look optimistic. He was completely unconscious. Moreover, after Zhuang Zhou checked, he found that Qin Sheng might have suffered internal injuries. If his vital parts were really in danger, he might not be able to keep his life. If Qin Sheng really died like this, Zhuang Zhou did not know how to explain to Qin Chang'an. After all, he was Qin Chang'an's only son. If something happened to him, he would definitely feel guilty for the rest of his life. After getting in the car, Zhuang Zhou searched for the nearest hospital in Qingyang County and rushed there. Fortunately, it was not far from the hospital. With his driving skills, he could get there in about half an hour. At the same time, Zhuang Zhou called Gongsuan's men who had just arrived at Mount Jihua to protect Qin Sheng. He told them the location of the accident and asked them to clean up the mess. After all, there were several dead bodies lying there. It was already 10 p.m. After Lin Su and Tan Jing came back from the bund, they were still restless. Tan Jing said worriedly, Su, should we send you to the hospital? Lin Su frowned and shook her head. Maybe she was under a lot of pressure recently. She called Qin Sheng again, but he still did not answer. This was the third time she called him. Usually, no matter how busy he was, he would tell her. However, it was so abnormal today. Qin Sheng had already arrived at Mount Jihua. Logically speaking, he should be fine. Lin Su became more and more worried. She became more and more agitated. In the Sihiyuan of the Qin family in Beijing, Qin Chang'an, who could not calm down, finally put down his book. He picked up the purple clay teapot, which was worth hundreds of thousands of yuan, and was about to pour more tea for himself. However, he did not know why it suddenly slipped out of his hand. The purple clay teapot fell and broke into pieces. Qin Chang'an's expression changed slightly. This was not a good sign. To him, although this teapot was not worth much, it was made by a famous master and was a gift from a friend. Just when Qin Chang'an was still in a daze, Gong Sun suddenly pushed the door open and barged in. The two doors hit the wall, which was extremely ear-piercing in the middle of the night. Qin Chang'an was not frightened at all. He turned his head calmly. Before Qin Chang'an could say anything, Gong Sun, who was panting heavily and looked extremely flustered, shouted, Master, young master, something happened to young master. Qin Chang'an's mind went blank instantly because he knew that if it was not something serious, it would not have made Gong Sun behave like this. At 11 o'clock in the evening, at the Capital International Airport, a Gulfstream G550 quietly took off and headed straight from Mount Jihua Airport in Qizhou. Normally, private planes needed to be booked 48 hours in advance. However, the incident happened so suddenly that there was no direct flight from Beijing to Mount Jihua at all. Qin Chang'an had no choice but to use his connections and directly look for the head of the Civil Aviation Administration to settle this matter. After all, such a small matter did not require him to directly look for the Ministry of Transport, which was above the Civil Aviation Administration. Qin Chang'an, who was known as omnipotent in Xizhou City, was not a paper tiger. When Qin Chang'an went to Qizhou, he had made several consecutive calls to Anhui. All the doctors and experts in Qizhou were rushing to Qingyang County. At the same time, a group of experts was set up, including experts from Hefei and Beijing for remote support. Qin Chang'an could not allow any accidents to happen. After all, this was his only son. If something really happened, not to mention other things, Qin Ran would not have any contact with him for the rest of her life, let alone the Zhu family. At the same time, Qin Chang'an had arranged people to block all the news. This matter naturally could not be known by outsiders. Moreover, Zhuang Zhou had killed 5 people tonight. When Qin Chang'an arrived at the People's Hospital of Qingyang County, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. The operation had been going on for more than 4 hours. All the experts had been replaced by experts from Qizhou. After all, no one could trust the level of the doctors in Qingyang County. Zhuang Zhou had been waiting outside the operating room. When he arrived at the hospital and got out of the car, Zhuang Zhou had already changed his clothes. His things were all in the car. It could be seen that he was very careful. After all, he was a special force soldier. I didn't protect him well, Zhuang Zhou said after seeing Qin Chang'an, feeling very guilty. This may be his destiny. Qin Chang'an patted Zhuang Zhou's shoulder and said, "It was not Zhuangzhou's fault. If it were not for Zhuangzhou, he might have died and would not be here to rescue him." As for the group of people behind the scenes, he had no time to deal with them now. But what was certain was that the game had just begun. Since they wanted to play so big, then let's see who could laugh in the end. Gongsun also came to comfort Zhuangzhou. He and Zhuangzhou were like teachers and friends. After such a big thing happened this time, he knew that with Zhuangzhou's temper and pride, he must feel bad. So he said softly, "Young master, you are lucky and have a good life. You will definitely be fine." "I know," Zhuangzhou said lightly. The atmosphere in the corridor was a little depressing. Qin Chang'an had already arrived at the meeting room of the panel of experts. After listening to the narration, he then knew that the situation was more serious than he had imagined. Qin Sheng had a severe concussion. 3 of his ribs were broken and his lungs were injured. His heart function was damaged, and his arm and left calf were fractured. At the same time, the most terrible thing was that he had lost too much blood. No one knew if he could be saved, and no one could guarantee if he could survive the critical period. In the dead of night, Lin Su, who was staying at Tan Jing's house, could not fall asleep no matter how hard she tried. That feeling of panic and shortness of breath had disappeared, but she could not fall asleep because of Qin Sheng. From dark until now, she had already received 7 or 8 calls, until Qin Sheng's phone was turned off. This was not Qin Sheng's character at all. Unless something happened to Qin Sheng, he would not answer her calls. Still no one answered. Lin Su could not fall asleep. So could Tan Jing. After sleeping for a while, she woke up and asked. Lin Su's face was a little pale. She shook her head and said, "His phone has been turned off. Didn't you say that he went to Mount Jiuhua to burn incense?" "Maybe the signal in the mountains is not good," Tan Jing comforted her. But obviously, this reason could not even convince her. Lin Su did not say anything. She did not have the phone numbers of any of Qin Sheng's friends. She could not ask for help even if she wanted to, for example, Chang Baji, Haolei, etc. "It's definitely going to be fine. Don't worry, he might have lost his phone. If it really doesn't work, you can go to his company tomorrow morning to take a look," Tan Jing comforted her. After hesitating for a while, Lin Su could only do this in the end. If she went to Shangshan or Washui tomorrow, she could contact Chang Baji. She could also contact their boss's son, who went to Mount Jiuhua with Qin Sheng. But maybe she was thinking too much. In Thompson Premium, Yin Xiaozong sat in the huge living room. He opened 2 bottles of red wine and invited 2 beauties to accompany him. Yin Xiaozong was in a very good mood. He was waiting for Uncle Zhao's call to report the good news. Just now, Yi Muyang had already told him that Qin Sheng had been handed over to Uncle Zhao and the rest. But it had already been a few hours since Yi Muyang's call. Yin Xiaozong still did not receive Uncle Zhao's call. He gradually lost his patience. He called Uncle Zhao a few times consecutively, but no one answered. Yin Xiaozong started to worry, wondering if there was an accident. After such a long time, no matter what, there would definitely be a result. Moreover, Qin Sheng was facing 2 experts alone. He had no chance of winning at all. After all, this plan was flawless. He did not believe that Qin Sheng was really a god and could grow wings and escape. But the truth was that up until now, Uncle Zhao had not called and had even lost contact with him. Yin Xiaozong could only call Yi Muyang immediately and let Yi Muyang call Qin Sheng to confirm whether Qin Sheng was dead or alive. As expected, Qin Sheng's phone was also turned off. This time, nobody knew what had happened. Yi Muyang was still in the hotel in Mount Jiuhua. Yin Xiaozong immediately ordered Yi Muyang to go to Seaview Pavilion to see what was going on. Yi Muyang did not dare to go to Seaview Pavilion at this moment. Such a strange ending had already scared him out of his wits. He was planning to rush back to Shanghai overnight. But due to Yin Xiaozong's threat, if he did not go, Yin Xiaozong would deal with him. Helplessly, he could only spend a few $1,000s to find 2 local farmers to follow him to Seaview Pavilion. After arriving at Seaview Pavilion, the 2 farmers waited outside. He went in alone, but there was nothing. Yi Muyang was completely terrified. What the hell was going on? Not long after, Yin Xiaozong also knew the result. He did not believe it, So he directly brought a few of his subordinates and rushed to Mount Jihua overnight. He had to figure out what was going on. In the People's Hospital of Qingyang County, the operation was still in progress. The sky was about to brighten. It had already been 10 hours, but the operation was still not over. The experts sent news that the situation was not optimistic and asked the family members to be mentally prepared. When Qin Chang'an heard that, Gongsun clearly felt that this man, who could not move at any time, trembled slightly. As a father who had been separated from his son for more than 20 years, Qin Chang'an had too many difficulties. Did God not even give him a chance to reunite with him? Qin Chang'an could not help but feel a little regretful. He regretted that he did not reunite with his son earlier. He regretted that he had to train him and let him go through these hardships. If he had reunited with his son earlier, these things might not have happened. He did not believe that anyone would have the guts to challenge him. Qin Chang'an. Master, you'd better go and rest for a while. I'll call you if there's any news, Gongsun said carefully. Qin Chang'an waved his hand and said, I'm fine. I'll stay here. It's been more than 20 years. I haven't done anything for him. Just take it as me making up for the guilt in my heart. A few hours later, the sky finally brightened. For many people, a new day had begun. Perhaps it was full of passion, or perhaps it was just the same old routine. However, no one knew what had happened last night, and not many people cared. At 9:30, Lin Su appeared in Shangshan, Ruoshui on time. He knew that Shangshan Ruoshui started work at 10 o'clock, but most people arrived at 9:30. Everyone was wondering who this new beauty was. Her aura completely overwhelmed all the beauties in Shangshan, Ruoshui. Could it be that she was a new artist? When she took the initiative to introduce herself, everyone knew that this beauty was actually Qin Sheng's girlfriend. They could not help but be shocked. Almost everyone just knew that Qin Sheng had a girlfriend, and it was such a beautiful girlfriend, including Yu Fengji and Liu Yuan. Yu Fengji could not help but frown. In the past, she did not understand why Qin Sheng had so many chances to eat her up, but gave up at the last moment. It turned out this girlfriend was so beautiful. As expected, she was not charming enough and felt somewhat disappointed. However, before Yu Fengji thought too much, Lin Su told her the purpose of her visit. It turned out that she could not contact Qin Sheng. Yu Fengji told Lin Su Changbaji's phone number. Lin Su quickly called him. After Changbaji knew about the situation, he realized that something might have happened. He immediately contacted Qin Sheng, but there was still no news. At 10 a.m., when Han Jingdong arrived at Shangshan Ruoshui, everyone immediately surrounded him and asked him to call Yi Muyang. Han Jingdong frowned. He was more or less unwilling, but he still dialed Yi Muyang's number. Regarding this matter, Yi Muyang had already thought of a countermeasure. He told everyone that after arriving at Mount Jihua, Qin Sheng said that he was going to look for an old friend. Until now, he had not returned. He was also very anxious. Chapter 179. A Father's Love is Silent. Don't forget the activity of Zongheng app at 7 p.m. I'll be waiting for you no matter what. Han Jingdong was supposed to go to Beijing, but Bossy had something to do. In the end, he let Angie and Changbaji go to Beijing. Knowing that Qin Sheng might be in trouble, Changbaji left Angie and rushed back from Beijing. Hao Lei and Han Bing also knew that Qin Sheng was in trouble, so they immediately came to meet Lin Su. This was also the first time that Lin Su and Han Bing met. No one expected that they would meet under such circumstances. When they first met Lin Su, Han Bing understood Qin Sheng's choice. Lin Su was better than her in all aspects. She never thought that she would lose to anyone. But in front of Lin Su, she really had no advantage. Everyone discussed countermeasures, but there was nothing they could do. In the end, Hao Lei decided to let Lin Su and Han Bing stay in Shanghai. When Changbaji came back, he brought people to Mount Jihua to find Qin Sheng. Although the relationship between Yu Fengji and Qin Sheng was a little special, she more or less had some feelings for him. Now that Qin Sheng was in trouble, she was also very worried. But she did not lose her sense of propriety. She knew that Qin Sheng and Xue Qingyin were close. Xue Qingyan was one of the VVIP members of Shangshan, Ruoshui. If Xue Qingyan could help, it should be very useful. So she suggested that Lin Su inform Xue Qingyan. Lin Su then remembered Qin Sheng's sister. She immediately found Qin Sheng's contact information through Shangshan, Ruoshui. Receiving Lin Su's call, Xue Qingyan was a little surprised. But when Lin Su told her the reason, Xue Qingyan was very shocked. What she was most worried about finally happened. Xue Qingyan was still on a business trip in Hong Kong. She could only come back from Hong Kong tonight. Everyone started to take action. If Qin Sheng knew, he would definitely be very touched. At 11 o'clock in the afternoon in Qingyang County Hospital, the operation that lasted more than 10 hours was finally over. But the result was not so optimistic. The experts could not guarantee that Qin Sheng could survive. They could only say that if he passed through the critical period of 24 hours, the probability of him waking up was very high. If something happened within these 24 hours, even the Buddha could not save his life. Qin Chang'an thanked all the experts. At the same time, he asked Gongsun to prepare something for each expert. Then he directly went out of the hospital, sat on the bench outside the hospital, and smoked several cigarettes. Just as the doctor had said, whether he could live or not depended on Qin Sheng's fate. This might also be his fate. If they knew that Qin Sheng was Qin Chang'an's son, the ones who were most afraid that something would happen to Qin Sheng would be the Yin family, the Lin family, and Yi Muyang. If Qin Sheng really died just like that, based on Qin Chang'an's temper, he would definitely let these three families die with Qin Sheng. At most, they would just throw away the foundation that the Qin family had accumulated for a few generations. If their son was gone, what was the use of these? After smoking a few cigarettes and eating lunch, the old Qin Chang'an finally could not stand it anymore. Gongsun had already booked the best hotel in Qingyang County. Qin Chang'an and Gongsun went back to the hotel to rest first. Zhuangzhou and a few of Qin Chang'an's confidants stayed in the hospital. They suddenly realized that Qin Chang'an seemed to have aged a lot overnight. There was also a lot of white hair on his head. It could be seen how tormented Qin Chang'an's heart was this night. Chang Baji, Lin Su, and Han Bing were all staying in Shilin Huayuan. Xia Ding also rushed over. Hao Lei contacted Xia Ding. After all, Xia Ding had a good network and could more or less help. Xue Qingyan was on the plane. The group of people who were closest to Qin Sheng had finally gathered. Han Bing did not dare to tell Xin for fear that she would be too worried. Chang Baji answered the phone and came in. Han Bing hurriedly asked, "How is it? What did Hao Lei say?" Chang Baji shook his head and said, he asked the hotel. Qin Sheng did go to Mount Jiuhua and stayed in Julong Hotel with Yi Muyang. But they went out later. When they came back, only Yi Muyang was there. Qin Sheng did not come back. So, either Qin Sheng chose to disappear on his own, or Yi Muyang is lying, Xia Ding analyzed and said. Han Bing did not understand. What is Yi Muyang's motive? No matter what the motive is, this is too coincidental. Han Jingdong arranged for me to go to Beijing on a business trip. Yi Muyang chose this time to ask Qin Sheng to accompany him to Mount Jiuhua. He is the biggest suspect, Chang Baji said slowly. Xia Ding looked at Lin Su and said slowly, "Then let's think again. Other than Yi Muyang, who is the most likely to deal with Qin Sheng?" Han Bing naturally did not know about Qin Sheng and Yin Chaozong, so she thought it was the cause of trouble left by her father. Chang Baji and Xia Ding looked at Lin Su at the same time. Lin Su did not avoid it. After all, she knew about what happened in southwest Sichuan. So she said calmly, "Yin Chaozong." Chang Baji and Xia Ding looked at each other, then said, "So, as long as we find out the relationship between Yin Chaozong and Yi Muyang, we will know if Yin Chaozong did this or not." "Okay, leave this to me. I will go and find out," Xia Ding recommended himself. He knew many famous rich playboys in Shanghai. Their social circles were all interconnected. It was easy to find out about this. In the People's Hospital of Qingyang County, Qin Chang'an blocked all the news. Everyone knew where Qin Sheng was. These doctors also did not know who this seriously injured patient was. Gongsun slept for 2 hours and went to the hospital to replace Zhuangzhou. Qin Chang'an only woke up when the sky turned dark. Actually, he did not sleep well. In his half-asleep state, he kept dreaming. He dreamed of Old Master and Qin Ran and Qin Ran's mother. Old Master was still so serious and kept glaring at him. Qin Sheng and Qin Ran's mother asked him, "Give me back my son." Under such a situation, how could Qin Chang'an sleep well? Qin Chang'an declined all the matters in Beijing. He did not pick up anyone's phone, no matter who it was. At this time, his son was the most important thing in the world. When Qin Ran called, Qin Chang'an hesitated for a while before picking up the phone. Ran, what's wrong? Where are you? Why can't I know where you are?" Uncle Gong's son did not pick up the phone. Qin Ran, who had just returned to the Sihiyuan, frowned. She was planning to ask Qin Chang'an to do something for her. Qin Chang'an had to say perfunctorily, "I am out of town on a business trip." "What's up?" "Well, then we will talk about it when you come back." "I am hanging up." Qin Ran still had the temper of a rich young lady. She snorted. Qin Chang'an said subconsciously, "Take care of yourself. If something happens, don't blame me." "What do you mean?" Qin Ran was stunned and asked confusedly. Qin Chang'an did not explain and only said that he was busy. Qin Ran mumbled a few words and hung up. Qin Chang'an rushed to the hospital again without eating dinner. Outside the ICU, Gong's son was alone. The doctor of the expert group had just left. Qin Chang'an asked, "What did the experts say?" Gong's son shook his head and said, "Whether we can survive or not depends on tonight." Qin Chang'an sighed and did not say anything. Time passed by, and it was midnight again. No one in Shilin Huayuan could find Qin Sheng. However, Xiaoding had already heard the news that Yin Muyang and Yin Chaozong knew each other and were very close. The answer had been revealed, although there was no concrete evidence. Lin Su wanted to look for Yin Chaozong, but she was stopped by Chang Baji and the rest. Yin Chaozong naturally would not admit it. Chang Baji, on the other hand, planned to look for Yi Muyang. He found out from Han Jingdong that Yi Muyang had already gone overseas for a trip in the afternoon. Everything was so strange, which explained everything. In the hospital, Qin Chang'an was exhausted. After all, he stayed up all night last night and did not sleep well today. Gong's son could not bear to see him like this. He took the initiative and said, "Master, why don't you go back and rest? Let me watch over him." Qin Chang'an shook his head and said, "If he can't survive, let me accompany him to the end of his life. This is also the only thing I, an incompetent father, can do now." Gong's son did not say anything. After midnight, it was also the time when Qin Sheng was in the most danger. After Qin Chang'an consulted the specialists and obtained their consent, he entered the ward in a sterilized suit. Sitting beside Qin Sheng, Qin Chang'an held Qin Sheng's hand. This was the first time he held his son's hand after more than 20 years. This reminded him of the scene when this kid held his hand and insisted on buying candied haws. Qin Chang'an looked at his son, who was almost completely wrapped in bandages, in silence. Too many memories came to his mind. The eyes of this powerful and ambitious man for many years gradually became blurry. If his son died, he, Qin Chang'an, would take back all the hardships, tiredness, and grievances he had suffered all these years. Your grandfather is stubborn. I'm also stubborn. Your sister is stubborn. And you're even more stubborn. Only your mother is a gentlewoman. You were luckier than me when you were a child. When you were born, both the Zhu and Qin families treated you as a treasure. Your mother was even more afraid that you would suffer any hardships. If there were any good toys, your uncle would always buy them for you as soon as possible. Every time your mother took you to your grandmother's house, your grandmother was reluctant to let you go. Every time you stayed there for 10 days to half a month. When you came back, you gained a few kilos. Qin Chang'an began to talk endlessly. He was talking about some trivial things in the past. However, he was afraid that he would not have such an opportunity in the future. Your sister loved you more than anyone else. When you were young, you were very naughty. When I took you to old General Lu's house, you tore a piece of calligraphy that General Lu had just written for me. The ink was not dry yet, but you directly tore it into pieces and said that it was really ugly. Old General Lu was so angry that he did not know whether to laugh or cry. When I got home, I was ready to beat you, but your sister hugged my leg and did not let me beat you. Later, she lay on your body, which made me so angry that I beat her. In the end, your mother stopped me. She loved you more than anyone else. Therefore, after your grandfather took you away, your sister hated me. She did not want to see me for all these years. Every time it was your birthday or your birthday, she would sneak back to the old house and eat a piece of cake while crying. After that, she would stay quietly for a while. I know all these. I also know that she always hid that photo of you two in her wallet. Qin Chang'an continued. He seldom talked nonsense, but today he had endless things to say. It seemed that he would feel uncomfortable if he did not say it out. Zhuangzhou and Gongsun, who were standing outside, saw this and felt very uncomfortable. Let me go and kill that group of people, Zhuangzhou said with a cold look in his eyes. Gongsun stopped him and said, You don't need to. Master's revenge will be fiercer than yours. Qin Chang'an, who was inside the ward, kept talking like this without stopping at all. He told Qin Sheng about his mother's story and his struggles over the years. When he had nothing to do, he also scolded the Zhu family for being unkind. He talked for a few hours in a row. He did not even take a sip of water. In the end, he directly fell asleep on the bed. At this moment, Qin Chang'an was just an ordinary father. Which father did not love their son deeply? It was just that they expressed it in different ways. After all, a father's love was silent. Zhuangzhou and Gongsun, who were outside, stayed like this for the whole night. In the end, the two sat on the chairs outside and fell asleep. The sky was bright again. The experts appeared on time. Zhuangzhou and Gongsun heard the noise and woke up. Qin Chang'an was woken up and asked to go out. The experts began to examine Qin Sheng. Qin Chang'an and the others waited outside anxiously. After more than 10 minutes, the experts came out and told them the final result. Qin Sheng had survived. Chapter 180. Put on a play. Part 2. Don't forget the activity of Zongheng app at 7 p.m. The third chapter will be updated at the same time. Ask for a monthly ticket. In the end, he made it. At this moment, Qin Chang'an did not know how to describe his feelings. These 2 days were more difficult than the life and death experience he had. Until now, Qin Chang'an finally understood what the old master had said before. He said that this kid's destiny was not good. The more hardships and setbacks he experienced in the first 30 years, the smoother the future would be. If he was too ordinary in the first 30 years, the future would be full of disasters. Qin Chang'an had never believed in the old master's theory. Now, he more or less believed it. No wonder the old master suddenly took Qin Sheng away. If Qin Sheng had stayed in Sizhou City, with the background of the Zhu and Qin families, he would not have any setbacks in the first half of his life. But he did not know what would happen in the second half of his life without the blessings of his ancestors. Gongsun was also very excited when he heard the news. The young master's life was finally saved. Otherwise, he did not know what would happen. Maybe it would change the fate of the Qin family. Zhuangzhou breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. God had eyes. He owed the Qin family too much. If Qin Sheng died, he really did not know how to face the Qin family. Master, the young master is lucky. He is fine now. Gongsun looked at Qin Chang'an and laughed. Qin Chang'an nodded silently and said, Since he is fine now, we should go back. Go back. What about the young master? Gongsun asked confusedly. Zhuangzhou was also very confused. What was Qin Chang'an doing? These days, Qin Chang'an had already thought about the follow-up steps. Naturally, he had to deal with this mess. So he ordered, Gongsun, send someone to bring the girl here and let her take care of this guy. It is not suitable for us to stay here. Master, you still don't want to reconcile with the young master? Gongsun had already understood Qin Chang'an's intention and asked. Qin Chang'an shook his head and said, Yes, but not now. Not in this situation. When he recovers, I will naturally find him. Everything has to be done slowly, or he will not accept it. Gongsun said thoughtfully, Understood. When he wakes up, how are we going to explain everything to him? Zhuangzhou kindly reminded. After all, they had mobilized such a large force. Qin Chang'an stared at Zhuang Zhou and said, "Then you need to put on a show." Half an hour later, Qin Chang'an had already explained everything to Zhuang Zhou. Zhuang Zhou only needed to do as he said. As for whether Zhuang Zhou believed him or not, Qin Chang'an did not care. At most, he would be suspicious, but he would definitely not find any clues. Even if he knew, Qin Chang'an would have other countermeasures. "Zhuang Zhou, sorry to trouble you. You have to stay here for a while," Qin Chang'an said politely. Zhuang Zhou shook his head and said, "This is what I should do. Don't worry. Then Gongsun and I will go back to Beijing first. By the way, don't let Qin Ran know about it," Qin Chang'an said. "Otherwise, Qin Ran would definitely kill her way here. At that time, all the plans would be disrupted." Qin Chang'an and Gongsun flew directly to Beijing from Mount Jiuhua Airport at noon. They would definitely not come back in a short period of time, unless Qin Sheng's condition changed. Gongsun directly ordered the people in Shanghai to bring Lin Su to Mount Jiuhua. As for what to do and what to pay attention to, Gongsun also reminded them. In Shanghai, under the leadership of Xue Qingyan, everyone was thinking of ways to find Qin Sheng. However, there was still no news. If it went on like this, Qin Sheng would obviously be in danger. Lin Su's patience had been worn out. She only wanted to see Qin Sheng now. As long as Qin Sheng was fine, she would be willing to make any sacrifice. She was not willing to sink into guilt and self-blame for the rest of her life. If it were not for her, Qin Sheng would not have met with an accident. At noon, only Han Bing and Lin Su were in Shilin Huayuan. Chang Baji and Hao Lei did not know what to do. Xia Ding accompanied Xue Qingyan to Mount Jiuhua and prepared to find Qin Sheng by relying on the local connections. Lin Su told Han Bing that she had to go out to get something, and then left Shilin Huayuan quietly. She was going to find Yin Chaozong. No matter whether Qin Sheng was dead or alive, she wanted to know the result. If Yin Chaozong only kidnapped Qin Sheng and intended to threaten her, then there was still room for negotiation. In a first-class Thompson mansion, Yin Chaozong was completely helpless. He brought people to Mount Jiuhua to look around, but still did not find Uncle Zhao and the others. Now Qin Sheng, Uncle Zhao, and the others were missing. The news from the group of people sent to follow Chang Baji was that they were also looking for Qin Sheng. Could it be that this group of people had disappeared into thin air? At least one of them was alive. Couldn't they have perished together? Or was there a third party? Yin Chaozong was a little depressed. The more time passed, the more likely it was that Uncle Zhao and the others had met with an accident. If Uncle Zhao and the others were alive, they would definitely contact him. There was no reason for them to disappear. As for whether Qin Sheng was alive or not, Yin Chaozong did not know. Lin Su was going to find Yin Chaozong. But just when she walked out of Shilin Huayuan, a black Tuareg stopped in front of her. A man got out of the car and blocked Lin Su's way. Lin Su did not panic. She kept calm and said in a low voice, "Who are you?" "Miss Lin, Mr. Qin wants to see you. Please come with us," the man in his 30s said, truthfully according to Gongsun's instructions. "Qin Sheng? Where is he?" Lin Su said in surprise. In order to avoid being discovered, the man said in a hurry, "Miss Lin, this is not a good place to talk. Mr. Qin is still alive, but his condition is not very optimistic. If you want to know anything, let's talk in the car." Lin Su did not hesitate at all. As long as she could see Qin Sheng, she was willing to take the risk, no matter how dangerous it was. After Lin Su got in the car, the Tuareg drove away quickly. It almost circled around Shanghai and changed cars twice on the way. It was not until they got on the highway that she changed to a Honda with an Anhui license plate. Only after she was sure that she was not being followed did she go to Mount Jiuhua. After she got in the car, Lin Su's phone was confiscated. The two men in the car did not speak. It was not until they got on the highway that the man in the front passenger seat said, "Miss Lin, ask whatever you want." "Who are you?" Lin Su said bluntly. The man smiled and said, "When we get to the place, someone will tell you. But you can be sure that we are Mr. Qin's friends. We will definitely not hurt you." Lin Su was skeptical, but she could only believe it now. However, she was most concerned about Qin Sheng, so she asked, "Where's Qin Sheng now? How is he?" The man hesitated for a moment and replied, "In the People's Hospital of Qingyang County, Mount Jiahua. He had an operation yesterday and just passed the critical stage in the morning. Now he is still in a coma, so the boss asked us to bring you from Shanghai to take care of Mr. Qin." After hearing the man's words, Lin Su was shocked and speechless. The expression on her face froze, and she did not speak for a long time. She did not expect that it would be so serious. It could be seen what Qin Sheng had been through in the past 2 days. Unconsciously, Lin Su's eyes were wet with tears. She felt extremely heartbroken and uncomfortable. "Miss Lin, don't worry. The most dangerous period has passed. But our boss told you not to let anyone know about this. Mr. Qin was seriously injured this time. Even if he wakes up, it will probably take him half a year to recuperate. Our boss is afraid that Mr. Qin's enemies will harm him, so he does not want outsiders to know where Mr. Qin is. But you can send a message to your friends who care about Qin Sheng and tell them that Mr. Qin is fine. Ask them not to worry, but ask them to keep their mouths shut." The man repeated Gong Suin's words. This was all planned. Lin Su wiped her tears and said with a trembling voice, "Okay, I got it. Qin Sheng was injured, and he was seriously injured." Lin Su really could not imagine it. She wanted to see Qin Sheng immediately. After she calmed down, Lin Su followed the man's instructions and sent a message to Chang Baji. "Tell everyone that Qin Sheng is fine. He was injured a little. You don't have to look for him anymore. I will take care of him. When he recovers, he will come back. Don't worry too much. Don't let outsiders know that he is still alive." When Chang Baji saw this message, he and Hao Lei were keeping an eye on Yin Chaozong at the #1 building in Tangshan. If Qin Sheng was still alive, he believed that Yin Chaozong would definitely expose his whereabouts. "Don't keep an eye on him. Let's go back," Chang Baji said thoughtfully. Hao Lei was confused and asked, "What do you mean?" Chang Baji did not explain. Instead, he brought Hao Lei back to Shilin Huayuan. At the same time, he called Xue Qingyin and Xia Ding and asked them to video call each other later. After returning to Shilin Huayuan, Chang Baji showed everyone the message sent by Lin Su. Everyone suddenly realized that Qin Sheng was finally fine. Although he was injured, which made everyone very worried, he was still alive. As long as he was alive, everything would be fine. Although they had thousands of questions, they could only bear with it. Hao Lei asked, "What should we do next?" Chang Baji looked at Xue Qingyin and Xia Ding in the video and said, "Keep acting. Continue acting." Regarding Chang Baji's suggestion, everyone agreed unanimously. After all, they knew that Qin Sheng was still alive. Others did not know this. They could not let them know this news. Therefore, everyone continued to do what they were supposed to do. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Lin Su finally arrived at the People's Hospital of Qingyang County. At this time, Qin Chang'an and Gong Sun had already returned to Beijing. Only Zhuang Zhou was left in the hospital. He would stay here for a long time. When Qin Sheng's body was ready, he would be transferred to Hefei. When Lin Su saw Zhuang Zhou, the man who picked her up introduced, "This is our boss, Mr. Zhuang. He saved Mr. Qin." "Hello, I am Zhuang Zhou, an old friend of old Master Qin." Zhuang Zhou took the initiative to stretch out his hand. This was also arranged by Qin Chang'an, and it was half true and half false. Only in this way, Qin Sheng could more or less believe it. Looking at the middle-aged man in front of her, Lin Su was very excited and said, "Thank you. Thank you for saving Qin Sheng. Lin, this is what I should do. I originally owed the Qin family a favor. Now I'm just repaying the debt. Moreover, I did not do a good job." Zhuang Zhou sighed and said, "All right, you go in and see Qin Sheng first. I know you are very worried about him." Lin Su really cannot care too much now. She only wanted to see Qin Sheng. Therefore, after nodding to Zhuang Zhou, she directly walked into the ward. Chapter 181. Spring Warms and Blossoms, Chapter 3. Today's Zongheng App Circle event has ended. Thank you for your support. There were a lot of readers, and you all had a lot of questions. I've been replying to your questions nonstop from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Maybe there were a lot of posts, and the screen refreshed quickly, so you didn't get to see the questions I answered. But you can go back later. I've answered all the questions you saw. It's your first time participating in this kind of event, so you might not be familiar with it. It'll be much better next time. Finally, thank you again for your support. As for the readers who won the prize, Zhongheng Customer Service will contact you. Qin Sheng had been injured during the incident in southwest Sichuan previously. Looking at those ghastly wounds, Lin Su felt extremely distressed. It was precisely because of this that she made up her mind to bring Qin Sheng back to the Lin family. Yin Chaozong, didn't you insist on doing this? Then I'll cut off all your thoughts. But she didn't expect Yin Chaozong to go so far and set up a trap to kill Qin Sheng. If it wasn't for old Master Qin's old friend, Qin Sheng might have been dead. At this moment, Lin Su's heart was extremely heavy. The pressure in the ward made it hard for her to breathe, and she couldn't even move. She used all her strength to barely take a step forward. Step by step, she walked towards Qin Sheng. It was just a few meters, but she felt like she had walked for 10 years. Ever since she knew Qin Sheng, she had never seen him like this. He always looked like he was there, even if the sky fell down. No matter what happened, he would be able to handle it. No matter how difficult the situation was, he would never back down. As long as Qin Sheng was by her side, Lin Su felt that nothing was scary. For example, when they got lost in the primeval forest and didn't eat for 2 days, Qin Sheng always told her, "Don't worry, I'll definitely bring you out." For example, when they were surrounded by the Tibetans, everyone was so scared that they didn't dare to speak, but Qin Sheng dared to stand up. This was why she fell in love with Qin Sheng. This man had an irresistible charm, but now this omnipotent man had fallen. Lin Su felt that the sky she had been relying on had collapsed. This man had always been thinking for others, but never for himself. He had helped so many people, but at this moment, who could help him? "I'm sorry." Lin Su held Qin Sheng's hand and sobbed. The familiar warmth was gone. Qin Sheng's hand was icy cold, and she could only see his eyes. If it wasn't for this familiar feeling, she wouldn't have believed that this was the man who occasionally flirted and acted like a hooligan. She covered her mouth and did not dare to make a sound. She was afraid that she would disturb Qin Sheng, who was in his sleep. She kept blaming herself. If it were not for her, Qin Sheng would not have ended up like this. If she was by his side, Yin Chaozong would not have dared to be so presumptuous. Lin Su's heart skipped a beat. She thought to herself, "Qin, Tian, Tian, the Tian, Tan, Wenzhou, Tian, Tan, 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 breaking Tan, Tan, Tian." Zhuangzhou could understand. After all, Lin Su was Qin Sheng's girlfriend. If she loved this man deeply, she would definitely be heartbroken. Even a strong man like Qin Chang'an could not stay calm after seeing his son like this, let alone a weak woman like Lin Su. After a long time, when Lin Su had calmed down, Zhuangzhou patted her shoulder gently and said, "Girl, you have to be strong at this time. If Qin Sheng was here, he would not want you to be so sad. Only when you are strong enough can you take good care of Qin Sheng. In this way, he will wake up earlier." "Uncle, I know," Lin Su said, biting her lip. Zhuangzhou then said slowly, "During this period, you have to stay in the hospital and can't go anywhere. I'll get someone to buy some daily necessities for you later. As for the clothes to change, you could tell the nurse what style you like, and I'll get someone to accompany her to buy them. Here's a new mobile phone with a new number. You can use it first. My number is saved in it. If anything happens, we can contact each other in time. Your old mobile phone is turned off and can't be used anymore. You have to avoid everything related to your past during this period of time, in case someone finds out Qin Sheng's location." "Okay, I'll listen to you." Lin Su nodded. The only person she could trust now was the middle-aged man in front of her. In this way, Lin Su started her life as a caretaker. When everyone found out that Qin Sheng was missing, Lin Su also disappeared. Yin Chaozong was among them. He could not find these two people no matter how hard he tried. However, he was almost sure that Uncle Zhao and the others were dead. Qin Sheng was still alive. Otherwise, Lin Su would not have disappeared. One morning 4 days later, when Lin Su went out to get water and was about to wipe Qin Sheng's face, the nurse suddenly rushed over and shouted to her that Qin Sheng had woken up. Lin Su was stunned on the spot. The water basin in her hand fell to the ground subconsciously. When she came back to her senses, she ran to the ward without hesitation. She did not look like a gentle and elegant goddess. She looked more like a tomboy carrying a bucket of water with one hand. Qin Sheng finally woke up. He felt that he had fallen into endless darkness, as if there were 10,000 hands pulling him into the abyss. However, every time he was about to collapse, he could hear the call from above. He saw his grandfather, his mother, and his father. Although their figures were very blurry, he also saw many familiar figures. He saw Lin Su, Han Bing, Xue Qingyan, Su Qin, Annie Wang, Uncle Lin, Xin Xin, Chang Baji, Hao Lei Xiading, and so on. In the end, he finally came out of the darkness. He could hear the familiar voice every day. That was Lin Su's voice. Lin Su talked to him. Sometimes, he could even hear Lin Su sobbing softly. He wanted to open his eyes, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not open his eyes. He did not know whether he was dead or alive. Maybe he was already dead, because he did not think that there was any possibility of him being alive. That night, he tried his best, but he was not a match for the two men at all. All of this was thanks to Yin Chaozong and Yi Muyang. However, on this day, he did not hear Lin Su's voice. Instead, he heard the voices of many people, as if they were checking his body. He subconsciously wanted to open his eyes, but he did not expect that his eyes would actually open. He finally saw light, but he did not know where he was. Immediately after, he saw and heard a few men and women in white coats, who should be doctors, cheering. He finally understood everything. This was the ward. He was alive. He was actually still alive. He could not believe it at all. However, when he saw that familiar long-haired woman, he finally believed the fact that he was still alive because he saw that she was crying and trembling. She had lost weight and was haggard. He wanted to stretch out his hand to wipe away her tears, but he felt pain all over his body, as if he was struggling. It was so painful that his tears came out. He wanted to tell her, "Have you forgotten? I hate seeing my beloved woman cry the most." But he could not say a word. He finally knew that the current him was basically a useless person. However, the fortunate thing was that he was still alive. It was such a wonderful thing to be alive. Half an hour later, Zhuang Zhou, who received a call, rushed over from the hospital. The doctor had already told him and Lin Su that their bodies were recovering well. The next step was to slowly recuperate, and within half a year, they would be back to their original state. When Qin Sheng heard this, he let out a long sigh of relief. He was afraid that he would be completely crippled. Lin Su told Qin Sheng, "It was Uncle Zhuang who saved you. He is an old friend of the old master." Zhuang Zhou knew that Qin Sheng had a lot of questions, so he said, "When you are almost recovered, I will tell you what you want to ask." Zhuang Zhou left the time for Qin Sheng and Lin Su. He knew that they had a lot to talk about. After all, going through life and death was a kind of baptism for anyone. After coming out of the ward, Zhuang Zhou found a place where there was no one and immediately called Qin Chang'an. During this period of time, he would report to Qin Chang'an about Qin Sheng's recovery every day in case something really happened. In the VIP building of the capital airport, Qin Chang'an, who was preparing to go on a business trip to Europe, picked up the call. During this period of time, he was very busy. He was going to Europe to buy an insurance company. Recently, the Central Bank's Foreign Exchange Bureau was very strict about cross-border purchases, so it was very difficult for funds to go out. Qin Chang'an's several projects abroad were in turmoil, so he had to rely on external funds to buy them. Otherwise, these projects might be aborted. "Lao Qin, he's awake," Zhuang Zhou said in a low voice. Since he was awake, it meant that everything was fine. Qin Chang'an nodded quietly and said, "Okay, I understand. You still have to continue acting. Let him recover in peace. We will talk about the rest later." After hanging up, Qin Chang'an squinted his eyes. The Yin family, Lin family, and Yi family had almost caused Qin Sheng to die in Mount Jiuhua this time. With such a huge grudge, how could Qin Chang'an not be angry? He originally wanted to fly into a rage, but after thinking about it, he and Qin Sheng had not acknowledged each other yet. If he did that, Qin Sheng would definitely know. Moreover, these were all Qin Sheng's business. Based on his understanding of Qin Sheng was obviously more willing to take revenge himself, so Qin Chang'an would not overstep his boundaries. However, he would not let the Yin family and the Lin family off so easily. Didn't the two of them think that they were the rich and powerful families in Ninghu? In that case, he would let them feel the power of the big families in Siju City. Thinking of this, Qin Chang'an immediately called Gong Sun and said, "Help me check the movements of a Yin family and the Lin family during this period of time, especially if there are any big projects or direct or collateral promotions." Qin Chang'an's intention could not be more obvious. Of course, he wanted to discuss them. Gong Sun immediately understood. In the People's Hospital of Qingyang County, Qin Sheng's body was recovering slowly. Lin Su had been taking care of him by his side. When he had almost recovered, Zhuang Zhou transferred Qin Sheng to a private hospital in Hefei. Time passed just like that. Qin Sheng and Lin Su completely disappeared. 3 months later, in Xiamen, spring was warm and flowers were blooming. At the seaside, not far away from Xiamen University, a new cafe that was more artistic had opened. At the same time, it also sold fresh flowers and old books. Most of the things in the cafe were white roses. As the location was better, there were more customers. Or perhaps it was because the lady boss of the cafe was too beautiful. The students of Xiamen University would come over every few days to take a look at her. The lady boss was so beautiful, but the boss was such a pity. He was a cripple with 2 crutches. Most of the time, he would listen in at Xiamen University and occasionally help out in the cafe. Other than that, there were a few employees who were all part-time students of Xiamen University. The cafe's business was considered the best in the vicinity. It opened from noon until 10 p.m. Chapter 182. This feels so good, begging for monthly votes, begging for monthly votes. This chapter is also a part of the Father's Day series. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. The name of the coffee shop was Spring Breeze. Everyone said that this was the boss confession to the lady boss. There was no one else who would flaunt their love to this extent. Unfortunately, most people felt that the boss was not worthy of the lady boss. A good cabbage was taken by a pig. The part-time students here told everyone that the boss and the lady boss came here a month ago. The coffee shop used to be a bookstore. The boss lost money in the stock market, so he transferred the bookstore. The lady boss spent half a month to renovate it. The lady boss did almost everything herself, and the boss did not care about anything. Hence, everyone was very envious of the boss' good fortune to have such a beautiful wife. She had the looks, the figure, and the temperament. Hence, many second-generation rich people kept coming to the coffee shop recently, all wanting to steal the boss woman. However, the lady boss was cold to them. She would only be gentle when she was with the boss. The lady boss would accompany the boss for a walk by the beach every morning and evening. After they came back in the morning, the boss would go to Xia University to attend classes. In a short period of time, he had already made a map of attending classes. What he was most interested in was philosophy. It was said that he had argued with a famous professor of Xia University in class. In the end, the professor actually admitted defeat. The two even became friends. The professor was planning to recommend the boss to the school to be a professor in the philosophy department. The boss would attend classes while the lady boss was busy with other things. She would prepare lunch and wait for the boss to come back. After lunch, the boss would take an afternoon nap. Only then would the lady boss come to the coffee shop. In the afternoon, the boss would still attend classes. If there was no class, he would come to the coffee shop. If the boss went to attend classes, the lady boss would go back in advance to prepare dinner. After dinner, they would go for a walk by the beach and then return to the coffee shop together. This was the daily life of the boss and the lady boss. There were almost no changes. Many people felt that it was a little boring. They did not know what method the boss used to make the lady boss love him so deeply. The boss and the old lady were naturally Qin Sheng and Lin Su. When their bodies had almost recovered, Zhuang Zhou transferred them to a private hospital in Hefei. When Qin Sheng could get up and move around, he always felt that it was too depressing and boring to stay in the hospital. Hence, Zhuang Zhou arranged for them to come to Xiamen. Both Lin Su and Qin Sheng quite liked this seaside city. This coffee shop and the place where they stayed were all arranged by Zhuang Zhou, just so that Qin Sheng could recuperate in peace. Qin Sheng and Lin Su smiled and nodded in response. The strange customer's eyes were full of smiles. This customer was about 50 years old and had a well-proportioned figure. However, the wrinkles on his face and the white hair on the top of his head made people know that he was no longer young. Everyone in the shop could tell that this middle-aged man was not an ordinary person. He had a kind of aura that made people afraid. Also, from his dressing, no matter what, he had to be a retired leader or a smart businessman. Lin Su helped Qin Sheng to sit beside the middle-aged man by the window. Qin Sheng patted Lin Su's perky, but which was wearing tight jeans. Lin Su immediately knew what he meant. She glared at Qin Sheng and wanted to make a pot of the Hong Pao tea for him. Many customers looked at them with envy. In a coffee shop, Qin Sheng did not drink coffee and only drank tea. Lin Su only made tea for Qin Sheng. This was Qin Sheng's exclusive privilege. Others could not enjoy it all. When Lin Su walked to the bar counter, the part-time student, and then smiled and said, "Sister, there are 4 ways of people sending you flowers today. Are you still going to throw them away?" "Throw them away," Lin Su said helplessly. She then said softly, "Don't let him know, or else he'll be jealous again." The petite and cute and uncovered her mouth and said, "I know, but we sell flowers too. It's such a waste to throw them away. Why don't we keep them and sell them? We can still earn some money." "You're so smart." Lin Su knocked on Anand's forehead lightly. This girl was so weird. Anand stuck out her tongue and walked over. She went to deal with the flowers from those pursuers. She felt that it was such a pity. She turned back and looked at the boss by the window. He always felt that the boss must have saved the Milky Way in his previous life. Otherwise, how could he have tricked the lady boss into his heart? After a while, Lin Su came over with the tea and sat beside Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng picked up the teacup and looked at the sea outside the window. He sighed and said, 3 months have passed without me noticing. How fast? Lin Su said calmly, but I think it's a bit too slow. You haven't recovered yet. It's good that I'm not dead after such a serious injury. Take your time to recuperate. I should be fine in another 3 months. At that time, I'll be full of energy and vitality. Qin Sheng gently rubbed Lin Su's nose and said happily. All the men in the coffee shop wanted to say, F*CKU. Will you die if you don't show off your love? Lin Su said coquettishly, You're showing off again. Do you miss home? Qin Sheng asked thoughtfully. After all, Lin Su had been with him for 3 months. During this period, she had never contacted any of her relatives or friends. She had let go of everything and said goodbye to the past. Lin Su held Qin Sheng's hand and said, You're thinking too much again, aren't you? Wherever you are, that's where home is. Wherever you are, that's where home is. This was Lin Su's most gentle words of love and also her biggest promise to Qin Sheng. The corners of Qin Sheng's mouth curled up, and he smiled very brightly. No matter what happened in this life, he could not let this woman down. Uncle Zhuang said that he'll be arriving in Xiamen the day after tomorrow. I haven't seen him for a while. Lin Su changed the topic. She did not want to talk too much about the past, in case it affected Qin Sheng's mood. Hearing that Uncle Zhuang was coming, Qin Sheng could not help but fall into deep thought. The incident in Mount Jiuhua 3 months ago was still vivid in his mind. Yin Xiaozong teamed up with Yi Muyang to set up a death trap for him. Under the situation where Chang Baji was not present, he would almost certainly die at that time. However, he did not expect that Zhuang Zhou's appearance would change everything and save his life. It was just that there were too many suspicious points. When he woke up, Lin Su told him that Zhuang Zhou was her grandfather's old friend. Qin Sheng was even more confused. After all, her grandfather had never mentioned an old man with the surname Zhuang. At that time, Zhuang Zhou explained, I'm from Sangzhou in Hebei. I do business in the Yangtze River Delta. When you were in college, I already knew that you were coming. Your grandfather asked me to protect you secretly, but I did not help much. After all, there was still Jiang Xianbang, so I did not intervene in many things. When you just came back to Shanghai, I already knew that you were back. I know everything that happened during your time in Shanghai, including you and the Han family, you and Shangshan Ruoxue, and you and Lin Su. Of course, I know about the Yin family's background in Shanghai. After Jiang Xianbang got into trouble, no one protected you. I was afraid that something would happen to you, so I sent someone to follow you secretly. I did not expect that they really wanted to kill you, so I saved you. This explanation was very reasonable. Qin Sheng could not find any fault with it. Although Qin Sheng did not understand a lot of things, he also accepted this fact. No matter what, it was Zhuang Zhou who saved him. If it had nothing to do with him, there was no need for Zhuang Zhou to do this. Okay, then we will go and pick him up, Qin Sheng said with a smile. Lin Su accompanied Qin Sheng for a while, and then went to do her work. Qin Sheng sat alone by the window and stared at the sea in a daze. These 3 months of ordinary life had completely calmed his restless heart. For many things in the future, Qin Sheng had replanned. He would not be as impulsive and greedy as before. In these 3 months, Lin Su did not contact anyone, neither did Qin Sheng. He did not know how they were doing now. However, Lin Su told him that after seeing him, she told them that he was fine, so they could rest assured. However, Qin Sheng was still a little worried. For example, Chang Baji and Hao Lei were both brought to Shanghai by him. If he left Shangshan Ruoxue, what would happen to Chang Baji and the group of people in Shangshan Ruoxue who were related to him? Originally, he had promised Xin and Annie Wang to go home during the Spring Festival. Who knew that this would happen? And he did not go home for the whole Spring Festival. Qin Sheng felt somewhat guilty and did not know how others would explain it to them. Just when Qin Sheng was in a daze, the middle-aged man next door slowly sat in front of him. Qin Sheng came to his senses and frowned. "You are." The middle-aged man was a little reserved and nervous, but he still smiled politely. "Haha, I live nearby. I have nothing to do and came out for a stroll. I saw that this place is pretty good, so I came over to have a seat." Towards strangers, Qin Sheng naturally had to be vigilant. He frowned and said, "Judging from your accent, you don't sound like a local. I'm from Beijing. You don't look like a local either. Why did you come to Xiamen to open a coffee shop?" The middle-aged man replied calmly. Qin Sheng squinted and said, "How do you know that I'm the boss? There shouldn't be many people here who don't know. When you and the lady boss came in, the few tables next to you were pointing at you. How could I not know?" The middle-aged man casually explained, "Young man, why are you so sensitive? I'm just a little old man. Will I eat you up? Ha ha ha." Qin Sheng smiled a little awkwardly. "No, I just asked casually. The lady boss is quite beautiful. Is she your girlfriend or wife?" The middle-aged man looked up at Lin Su, who was busy not far away, and asked softly. Qin Sheng replied, "Girlfriend. Then you have to keep it. I heard that there are many men chasing after your girlfriend. Why don't you get married early and stop them from thinking about you?" The middle-aged man said half-jokingly. Qin Sheng chuckled and said, "Uncle, don't worry. My girlfriend doesn't like them. I really don't know where you get your confidence from. Haha." The middle-aged man could not help but laugh. Xiamen was a tourist city. Although there were not as many tourists as Galanjiu, there were still many tourists who came here to stroll. Hence, there were always strange people. However, Qin Sheng rarely paid attention to them. He liked to sit here and stare blankly. "Uncle, did you come to Xiamen to travel or?" Since he had nothing to do, Qin Sheng chatted with the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man smiled and replied, "I came out to relax. It's boring to stay at home after retirement. My son and daughter are not by my side. My wife passed away a few years ago. Hence, every year, I would change my residence in a few cities. I just arrived in Xiamen this month. Previously, I lived in Sanya. Uncle, you really know how to enjoy life." Qin Sheng smiled and nodded. These retired old people could understand. After working hard for a lifetime, it was time to enjoy life. After chatting with Qin Sheng for a while, the middle-aged man was afraid that Qin Sheng would get suspicious and think too much. He stood up and said, "All right, it's getting late. It's easy to feel sleepy when you're old. It's time to go back and rest. I'll come again tomorrow when I'm free. Then I won't see you off." Qin Sheng pointed at the 2 crutches not far away. The middle-aged man shook his head and smiled bitterly. Then he left. Chapter 183. Joys and sorrows. Most fathers were great, but they expressed their love in different ways. The relationship between Qin Chang'an and Qin Sheng was special. Moreover, Qin Chang'an's identity and background were even more special. He had to consider all kinds of factors for Qin Sheng and the Qin family, not only the present but also the long term. If he suddenly stood in front of Qin Sheng and recognized him, not to mention whether Qin Sheng would believe and accept it based on Qin Sheng's temper, he might not follow him back to the Qin family. Every man in the Qin family was very stubborn. They would only follow the path that they had chosen. Last, but also the most important thing, he needed to see what kind of person Qin Sheng was in a short time, so he could make arrangements for Qin Sheng's life after he came back. After all, the Qin family was a big business. If Qin Sheng did not have the ability to shoulder this responsibility, Qin Chang'an hoped that he would live a peaceful life. If Qin Sheng took over the Qin family's business blindly, it was okay to lose this business. However, if he lived a tortuous life, Qin Chang'an did not want to see that. Fortunately, Qin Sheng was like every man in the Qin family. He had a fierce tiger in his heart. He would never lower his head, admit defeat, or give up no matter what he did. After staying at the seaside for a while, Qin Chang'an slowly walked back. On the side of Huandao South Road, Gongsun was waiting there in an Audi A8L with a shaman license plate. After opening the door and getting in the car, Qin Chang'an was in a good mood. After Gongsun walked far away, he asked, "Have you seen young master?" "Yes. It seems that the cultivation during this period is effective. He is not as impetuous and frivolous as when we first met," Qin Chang'an said thoughtfully. Fortune and misfortune depended on each other. All the men in the Qin family were ambitious. So was Qin Sheng. That was why he went astray in Shanghai and suffered a big loss in the end. However, it was reasonable. Anyone would do that. Gongsun said meaningfully, "I heard from Zhuangzhou that your body is recovering well. You can start rehabilitative exercise this month. However, it will take 2 months for you to fully recover. When do you plan to recognize me, master?" "Let's talk about this later," Qin Chang'an said casually. He was very cautious about this matter and did not want to be too anxious. It would be best if the conditions were right. There was no need to be so deliberate. Gongsun nodded. He was more anxious than anyone else, because only by reuniting with the young master could he take revenge. The good days of those families would also come to an end. However, during this period of time, they were not having a good time either. Although the Qin family did not start a full-scale war with them, they had done a lot of things in the dark. The sales of the Lin family's real estate projects in eastern Zhejiang had all been suspended due to violations of regulations. Now, the capital chain was a little tight. If it was in the past, with the power of the Lin family, the regulatory authorities would turn a blind eye and never care about it. However, this time, Qin Chang'an had directly informed the province, which was why they were targeting the Lin family. The Yin family's days in Shanghai were not easy either. An internet financial project was seized, and their import and export trade was strictly investigated by the customs. A collateral relative was supposed to be promoted to deputy district chief, but he was stopped from doing so. There's also Boss Yi. His resource integration project in Jiangsu was about to be approved by the ministry, but it was abruptly turned back. No one bought it. He certainly didn't know that this was a gift from his son. These were all Qin Chang'an's power, but they didn't know who was behind it. In order to get closer to Qin Sheng, Qin Chang'an planned to stay in Xiamen this week. Moreover, he directly bought an empty house in the residential area where Qin Sheng lived, just so that Qin Sheng would not be suspicious. It could be seen how meticulous he was. Spring breeze is not as good as you. All the wine is not as good as you. This was a sentence on the wall of the cafe. It was the original version written by Qin Sheng, and then he found someone to make it into a wooden board and nail it on the wall. The words were very beautiful. During this period of time, when Qin Sheng was bored, he would practice calligraphy at home. Lin Su then realized that Qin Sheng's calligraphy was very good. She did not know this before. Qin Sheng said, "What do you think? When your husband was young, He was thrown into the Balin Museum by our grandfather every summer vacation. If he did not know how to write a word or two, it would be too embarrassing. Qin Sheng liked to be in a daze, liked to read, liked to look at every customer in the cafe, see their happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy, and figure out their inner thoughts. Occasionally, he would flirt with a few part-time students. Although it was only for half a month, Qin Sheng got along very well with them. Apart from the 3 staff who were stationed in the cafe, the other 6 waitresses were part-time students for girls and 2 boys. Most of the time, they worked separately. After all, the class time was different. At night, they were the busiest. Unless someone had something to do, they would come over to help. Anin and Lele were the prettiest. Qin Sheng felt that their family conditions should be similar. They just wanted to experience this kind of working life. The other few kids should be from ordinary families, working to earn some pocket money. Lele walked over and saw that Qin Sheng had run out of tea. Then she added some water for Qin Sheng and sighed inexplicably. Lele, who was wearing the cafe's gray work uniform, was very beautiful. She had a pair of sweet dimples and was the most popular waitress in the cafe. "Why are you sighing all of a sudden?" Qin Sheng said with a smile. Lele turned sideways and looked at the table of customers not far away. There were 2 boys and a girl. The girl was dressed very beautifully. The boy beside her was also bright and beautiful. He looked like a son of a rich family. The boy opposite her was dressed very plainly. His hair was messy and his eyes were a little swollen. He was in a very bad state of mind. "I feel sorry for that boy," Lele said very unhappily. Qin Sheng looked over there and then listened to their conversation. Only then did he understand what was going on. It turned out that the beautiful girl and the boy opposite her were boyfriend and girlfriend. They had been dating since high school until their 3rd year in university. The boy studied at Beijing University while the girl studied at Xiamen University. They had been in a long-distance relationship. The boy would come to visit the girl every month. They would take the train for more than 10 hours. They could only take the hard seats because they had no money. After 3 years, the train tickets were piled up. Today was the girl's birthday. The boy did not tell the girl in advance. He took the train again and secretly came to Xiamen. He originally wanted to give the girl a surprise, but he did not expect to receive such a blow. The girl appeared in front of him with the boy beside her. At that moment, the boy felt that his world had collapsed instantly. "I'm sorry. We are really not suitable for each other." Facing the boy, the girl gave such an excuse. It had been 5 years since they were not suitable for each other. If they were not suitable for each other, they would have broken up long ago. How could they have lasted until their 3rd year in university? If they were not suitable for each other, why didn't she take the initiative to break up? Instead, she had been dating another boy behind the boy's back. The boy was not angry. His eyes were full of determination. He smiled and said, "These few years have not been easy for you. I couldn't go shopping with you, go to the library with you, accompany you to eat. I couldn't take care of you when you were sick. When you needed me, I couldn't immediately appear in front of you. Speaking of which, it's all my fault. But it's pretty good now. At least in the future, there will be someone by your side to take care of you. I can also be at ease. Don't be like this." Hearing the boy say this, the girl felt very sad. She bit her lip and said, "You will find a better girl." The boy revealed a bright smile and said, "I know. I also believe that. It's getting late. You guys should go back early." The girl's current boyfriend kept playing with his phone and did not seem to care. Occasionally, he raised his head and glanced at the boy. It seemed that he did not care about the boy at all. He had the arrogant attitude of a winner. Maybe he felt that the boy was not his opponent at all. "Where do you live? Shall we send you back?" The girl was a little worried. She was afraid that the boy would do something stupid. The boy shook his head and said, "No need. I'll go back in a while. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid. Then I'll treat you to a meal tomorrow. Don't you like seafood the most?" The girl wanted to make it up to the boy. Every time the boy came to Xiamen, they would go to the seafood stall. The boy smiled and refused. "I've booked a train ticket back to Beijing tonight. The day after tomorrow, the student union still has a lot of things to do." The boy refused the girl one after another. The girl knew that he was very sad, but things had already come to this. She could not do anything about it. Breakups were always accompanied by sadness. "Okay, then we'll go back first. Call me if there's anything, the girl said slowly with her current boyfriend. The boy wanted to say something, but stopped. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said to the girl's current boyfriend, "Help me take care of her. She doesn't like to eat sour food, spicy food, coriander, can't get wet in the rain. She's allergic to pollen and smoke. You don't have to worry about these," the girl's current boyfriend said very unhappily. The boy laughed at himself and nodded. "Okay, let's go." The girl's current boyfriend pulled the girl and said. The boy stood up and watched them leave with a smile on his face. He was waiting for the girl to turn back, but she did not. Finally, he could not help but shout, "Guman!" The girl subconsciously stopped and turned around. The boy held back his tears and said, "Thank you for once liking me. Thank you for accompanying me through the road. Thank you for coming to my world. Thank you." Then, goodbye, never again. In the end, the boy used all his strength to wave his hands and said goodbye. The girl finally could not help but cry, but she was forcefully pulled away by her current boyfriend. When the girl completely disappeared, the boy could not bear it anymore. He squatted on the ground and cried bitterly with his head in his hands. Although he did not make a sound, his whole body was shaking. Everyone could feel his heart-wrenching pain. That kind of pain went deep into the heart. Not knowing whether it was a coincidence or not, the cafe happened to be playing Chengdu by Zhao Lei. He sang that line, "Parting is always in September. Memories are the pain of missing." Qin Sheng and many others witnessed the whole process, but they did not know what to say. He could see that the boy was strong and conceited. From the beginning to the end, he did not ask why, nor did he beg the girl to turn back. He just silently accepted this fact. No matter how uncomfortable he was, he had to bear it. There were sorrows and joys every day in this world. Qin Sheng, who had experienced life and death, was not shocked by this. But for most ordinary people, every sorrows and joys and partings meant growth. Maybe it changed their lives inadvertently. The girl was not wrong. She did not need moral coercion. If she liked someone, she liked them. If she did not like them, she did not like them. There were no additional conditions. The boy was not wrong either. To him, the girl at this moment was no longer the girl he used to like. Even if they started over, everything could not go back to the past. After a long time, the boy finally stood up. He was not sure if it was because he was tired from crying or he did not feel uncomfortable anymore. He wiped his tears and smiled at the crowd embarrassedly. Then he took out his phone and deleted all the contact information with the girl. Chapter 184. The best time. Readers who won the Circle event on the 17th, please pay attention to the customer service. Please tell the customer service your address and contact details. P.S. The recent plot is to pave the way for the next few days. 2 chapters a day at the end of the month. To many people, alcohol was the greatest invention of mankind because it could cure pain and sorrow. Different countries invented different types of alcohol. Therefore, other than the differences in skin and language, everything else was the same. The boy was not tall and was a little thin. He wore glasses and had messy hair. Compared to the girl's current boyfriend, he paled in comparison. Perhaps most girls would choose a boyfriend like that. After all, at this age, not many girls had the foresight to discover their boyfriend's potential. Lele took 2 bottles of Corona from the bar counter and slowly placed them in front of the boy. The boy, who was deep in thought, looked at Lele in surprise. His eyes were still moist. Breaking up and being heartbroken were different feelings. Breaking up might be reluctant, but heartbroken often brought unforgettable scars. Facing a beautiful girl like Lele, the boy was obviously a little shy. Lele looked at the boss not far away and smiled. "The boss asked me to give it to you. He said that you need alcohol at this time." "Thank you," the boy replied politely. Then he looked at Qin Sheng and nodded slightly. His eyes were full of gratitude. He really wanted a drink, but he did not expect someone to give him help in his time of need. After Lele left, the boy used his teeth to bite open the bottle cap. He picked up a bottle of Corona and drank it in one gulp. Perhaps he was a little anxious and choked halfway. He paused for a while, but still gritted his teeth and finished it. After finishing a bottle of wine, the boy put down the bottle and panted heavily. His face was full of contentment. but there was some bitterness in his eyes. After resting for a while, he picked up the remaining bottle of wine and slowly sat opposite Qin Sheng. It's written on the wall that all the alcohol is not as good as yours. Why did the boss still give me alcohol? The boy asked directly. Perhaps his love was gone. At this time, there was nothing that would make him afraid or worry. Qin Sheng smiled faintly. I'm just giving it to you. You can decide whether to drink it or not. If you need it, you will drink it. If you don't need it, naturally you won't drink it. I made a fool of myself in front of you, the boy said with some embarrassment. Qin Sheng shook his head and said, who doesn't have a heart-wrenching moment in their lives? Who doesn't have a low tide in their lives? Why do you need to care about what others think? Maybe if you walk out of here today, these people are destined to never cross paths in this life. You and we're just passers-by who pass by each other. If you have to care about the thoughts of every passers-by in your life, won't it be too tiring to live? Yes, this might be the last time in my life that I come to Xiamen, the boy sighed as he looked at the sea outside. Memories were like a knife, and every slash of the knife was fatal. Qin Sheng laughed and said, some things are not so absolute. If the girl you like next time is still from Xiamen, won't you come? The boy did not know whether to laugh or cry as he said, in that case, I have a conflict with Xiamen. As Qin Sheng drank his tea, he felt a little craving for wine. Tea should be drunk alone, and wine should be enjoyed by everyone. Unfortunately, he did not even have a friend to drink with. It was indeed a little sad. My name is Lu Jiangbai, a third-year student of Tsinghua University's finance department. Nice to meet you, and thank you for your beer. If you don't mind, please leave me your phone number. The next time you go to Beijing, I'll treat you to a drink. I don't want to owe people favors. The boy took a deep breath and said confidently. This made Qin Sheng's eyes light up. Qin Sheng laughed and said, 2 bottles of beer counts as a favor. To you, it's just a lift of a finger. To me, it's a timely help. At least at that moment, you made my heart feel warm. Lu Jiangbai pushed his glasses and said softly. Qin Sheng laughed and said, all right, it seems that at least someone will treat me to a drink when I go to Beijing. Then I'll leave you your phone number. In life, there would always be strange people, and there would also be unexpected fates. Qin Sheng felt that this boy was not bad, so he treated him as a friend. Hence, they left each other's phone number. Does it hurt? Qin Sheng asked casually. Lu Jiangbai drank a mouthful of beer and said, it hurts, but I have to let go. Today is her birthday. I wanted to give her a surprise and tell her a piece of good news. I'm going to Harvard as an exchange student for a year soon, but I didn't expect her to give me an even bigger surprise. She can't even stand a long-distance relationship. Moreover, I come to Xiamen once a month, so a long-distance relationship is obviously impossible. It's only a matter of time before we break up. Congratulations first. Although love is not everything in life, I hope that you will always believe in love. Don't miss out on too many beautiful things because of this heartbreak. I believe that you will have a bright future. It's a pity that she doesn't have this blessing, Qin Sheng said with a smile. He was from Tsinghua University's finance department and could even go to Harvard as an exchange student. He was obviously a top student. That girl really had no taste. Lu Jiangbai said confidently, yes, no matter what, I'm still grateful to her for accompanying me through this journey. Although she won't be here in the future, I believe that there will be someone who will accompany me for the rest of my life. At this moment, Lin Su walked over slowly. She was the most beautiful scenery in spring breeze. Lu Jiangbai had noticed her a long time ago, but he did not know that she was the lady boss. After all, it was his first time coming to spring breeze, and his attention was focused on saying goodbye to his ex-girlfriend just now. It's getting late. We should go back, Lin Su said to Qin Sheng gently. Qin Sheng introduced naturally. This is my wife, Lin Su. This is the result of me believing in love. Facing such a beautiful lady boss with such a temperament, Lu Jiangbai was stunned. He was obviously very surprised. At this moment, he felt that the boss and lady boss in front of him should not be ordinary people. Lin Su smiled and nodded at Lu Jiangbai, then turned around and rolled her eyes at Qin Sheng. No wonder Lulu and gave Shung the nickname of Crazy Wife Show-Off. He was showing off his love everywhere. However, Lin Su enjoyed it very much, because Shung only had eyes for her. Thank you, boss. I should go too. Next time you go to Beijing, you must contact me, Lu Jiangbai said with a smile. After chatting with this interesting boss for a while, his mood was much better. Although he knew that these days would not be easy, he also knew that time was the best antidote, and he also believed that he could get through these difficult days. Shung stood up slowly and said, "Okay." Leaning on his walking stick, Lin Su supported Shung. After the two of them greeted the staff and customers in the shop, they left Spring Breeze. After Shung left, Lu Jiangbai raised his head and drank the last bit of beer. He called the waiter over to settle the bill. After all, they had ordered a few cups of coffee and desserts just now. However, the waiter came over and told him that the boss had already waived the bill. Lu Jiangbai still stubbornly put $200 on the table and left immediately. The biggest gain from this trip to Xiamen was to meet this boss. He subconsciously felt that his story with the boss had not ended yet, and that there would be more interactions in the future. Be it Shung or Lu Jiangbai, they naturally did not know that their story had just begun. In the near future, the name Lu Jiangbai would become a legend, and his benefactor and talent scout would be Shung. It was already very hot in Xiamen in late April. Shung was wearing a casual sportswear, while Lin Su was wearing a white short-sleeved shirt and a pair of slim-fitting jeans. Her body proportions were very balanced, and her slightly perky butt and slender legs were the most attractive to men. The neighborhood that Shung and Lin Su lived in was very close to the coffee shop. It was a 10-minute walk away. They lived on a high-rise near the sea, and they could see the sea when they opened the window. The scenery was the most beautiful at dusk. Shung liked to take a stroll when he had nothing to do, treating it as a recovery exercise. He had already walked this road countless times and was already familiar with the shop owners and stalls by the roadside. He knew everyone's family gossip. Along the way, he was greeted and teased by acquaintances, and Lin Su even jokingly scolded him that he was already an Annie from the neighborhood committee. It was exactly 9 o'clock when they reached home. In order to let Shung recover as soon as possible, Lin Su was very strict with Shung's daily routine. He had to sleep at 10 o'clock every day, wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, eat breakfast, do morning exercises, take a walk, read books, practice calligraphy, listen to music, and so on. Lin Su arranged Shung's life in an orderly manner. "I'm going to take a shower first." After entering the house, Lin Su washed a plate of fruits for Shung and poured a glass of milk for him, then went to take a shower. Shung smiled and nodded. In 3 months, Lin Su had completely changed. From a young female CEO of an investment company, she had become a young housewife, cooking, working, and taking care of him every day. Shung felt a little guilty in his heart. This was not Lin Su's life, but she had changed herself for him. He was afraid that Lin Su would feel that life was boring, or that she would get tired of this kind of life one day. Not long after, Lin Su came out of the bathroom with a bath towel wrapped around her, revealing the tender white skin of her neck and beautiful legs. Shung was already used to getting along with her like this. After all, they were already an old couple. However, it was a little awkward at the beginning, especially when Lin Su was bathing him. Shung could not accept it more or less. He could only rely on Lin Su for help, and the two of them were naked and their skin was touching, but he could not do anything. That kind of pain was understood by all men. However, he got used to it later. Some time ago, he could finally take care of himself and did not have to suffer so much. "Go and take a shower," Lin Su said casually while drying her hair. Shung replied, "Oh." He put down his walking stick and walked to the bathroom. In fact, he could already walk without the walking stick, but the doctor in charge of his recovery did not recommend him to walk too early. Otherwise, it might relapse or leave behind sequelae. Lin Su was even more determined not to let him be complacent, so Shung would only throw away the walking stick when he was at home. Just when Shung was about to walk into the bathroom, Lin Su looked back and smiled. "Do you need my help?" Shung was shocked and almost fell down. He quickly said, No, 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 I can do it. Qin Sheng's embarrassed look made Lin Su laugh coquettishly. After that, she entered the bedroom. When Qin Sheng came out of the shower, Lin Su was already lying on the bed. In the beginning, Qin Sheng and Lin Su slept separately because Lin Su was afraid that she would touch Qin Sheng's wound at night. It was not until they came to Shaman that they slept in the same room. However, nothing happened. Even if Qin Sheng's desire was unbearable and impulsive, Lin Su would not agree to it. However, Lin Su had already promised that when Qin Sheng's body recovered completely, he could do whatever he wanted by then. This was the biggest motivation for Qin Sheng to recuperate from his injury. Currently, their married life could only be said to be in name only. However, sleeping on the same bed and taking advantage of each other was still possible. Lin Su also tacitly agreed to this as a reward for Qin Sheng. Lin Su was reading a book. After Qin Sheng lay down, Lin Su opened her mouth and said, "Dr. Zhao called me and said that from tomorrow onwards, you can start training with the equipment. 2 hours a day. I'll send you over then." "Okay, you've worked hard." Qin Sheng looked at Lin Su and said happily. Lin Su put down the book and stared at Qin Sheng. "You're saying such things again. It's my duty to take care of you. Don't always feel guilty. If you say such things again in the future, I'll really be angry." All right, my dear wife, I'll do as you say." Qin Sheng quickly admitted his mistake. Lin Su said coquettishly, "That's more like it. However, I have something to do tomorrow evening, so I can't cook for you. I've already told Annie Tang. You could just put up with a meal at their house." "Okay, got it." Qin Sheng smiled and nodded. Annie Tang was their neighbor. She lived alone with a pair of children. The relationship between the two families was very harmonious. Lin Su said in surprise, "Aren't you going to ask me what I'm going to do tonight? Don't tell me your next sentence is that you don't even care about me?" Qin Sheng found it funny. Lin Su snorted coldly and did not continue on this topic. She knew that Qin Sheng trusted her completely. As for what was going to happen tomorrow night, she really could not tell Qin Sheng. She was afraid that Qin Sheng would overthink, because Lin Yu had gone to Shaman. She did not know how she got the news that she was in Shaman and even got her new phone number. This girl was really capable. "Go to sleep." Lin Su turned off the light. Qin Sheng got up slightly and kissed Lin Su's forehead gently. "Good night. Good night." Chapter 185. A strong, silly child in the early morning. When the sea breeze blew, Lin Su had already made breakfast. During this period of time, under Qin Sheng's guidance, Lin Su had already become a 5-star chef. Every day, when she was free, she would look at recipes and pay attention to the Weibo of various nutrition masters, just so that she could cook nutritious and healthy dishes for Qin Sheng to ensure that he could recover as soon as possible. The breakfast was still very sumptuous. There was millet and mung bean porridge that warmed the stomach, vegetable salad and fruits, plus egg buns and pickles. It was more tempting than most people's lunch. Lin Su, who was wearing an apron, enjoyed it. Her biggest feeling was that she understood why those chefs treated cooking as an art, and cooking for the man she loved the most was even more enjoyable. In the study, Qin Sheng was already practicing calligraphy. In the study room, Qin Sheng was already practicing his calligraphy. He used cursive script to write Chao Ji's Luo Shun Fu, but the size of the characters was like a small regular script. However, it was more exhausting. The densely packed small characters emphasized on one state of mind, but when he wrote it, it was written smoothly, like a master. Lin Su liked Qin Sheng's serious look the most. It had a different kind of charm. It was said that serious men were poison, and Lin Su was already deeply immersed in it. There were 984 words in the entire text of Luo Shun Fu. It was obviously impossible to finish it in one go. Qin Sheng had been writing it intermittently during this period of time. It was about to be completed. In the beginning, Qin Sheng, who was in a bad state of mind, often made mistakes. Every time he made a mistake, he would start again. Later on, he was more skillful and would be done in 2 days. "Although I hide in the moon, I place my heart in the king. Suddenly, I don't understand what he has given up, and my soul is covered by the night. After finishing the second last paragraph, the ink was just right. Qin Sheng nodded in satisfaction, then put down the brush in his hand and admired this masterpiece. If a calligraphy master saw this, he would definitely praise him for his talent. It's time to eat. Lin Su did not disturb Qin Sheng until he put down the brush. The two had already formed a tacit understanding. Lin Su knew how many words Qin Sheng could write, and he also knew when she could finish cooking. In the cafeteria, Lin Su casually asked Qin Sheng what classes he had been attending recently. Qin Sheng said that most of the classes were finance and law, because he did not go to philosophy classes anymore. He did not even dare to answer the phone call of the old professor who taught philosophy, for fear that he would be asked to substitute for the class again or recommend him to be the teacher. Lin Su laughed and scolded him for not knowing how lucky he was. However, there was a lecture by a great historian this morning. Qin Sheng had already asked Aunt Tang's daughter, who lived next door, to reserve a seat for him. He would attend the lecture at 9 a.m. sharp. It was rare for him to have free time. Of course, Qin Sheng would try his best to enrich himself. Only when he was strong enough could he shine in any conditions and environment. Otherwise, even if the opportunity was right in front of him, he would not be able to find it. The weather was a little hot today. Lin Su was wearing a gray linen dress. This kind of close-fitting fabric was especially comfortable and could show off her figure. Coupled with Lin Su's temperament, she was definitely a goddess that could charm any man. After accompanying Qin Sheng for a walk at the beach, Lin Su went back to work. Qin Sheng, on the other hand, walked to school. Annie Tang's daughter, Du Fei, was already waiting downstairs at the auditorium of Xia University. Seeing Qin Sheng walking over slowly with the help of a walking stick, Du Fei quickly went up to him. She was already in her third year this year. Du Fei was very beautiful, a typical Southern girl. She was wearing a gray short-sleeved shirt and a floral skirt. After seeing Qin Sheng, she said in a spoiled manner, "Brother Qin, when are you going to let Sister Lin accompany you to class? If you go on like this, I really won't be able to find a boyfriend. Now everyone says that I'm your girlfriend. If it's true, I have nothing to say." "What, you don't want to?" "You didn't say that when you were freeloading at my house," Qin Sheng said disapprovingly. This girl was very cheerful and was also the prettiest girl in school. However, Aunt Tang was very strict with her. At least before graduation, she was not allowed to fall in love. After all, she was from a single-parent family. Du Fei was also very obedient. Although there were many boys chasing after her, she had never agreed. Du Fei helped Qin Sheng up the stairs and said as they walked, "Brother Qin, do you know what the biggest disadvantage of knowing you is?" "Disadvantage? Are you in love with me?" "I don't mind taking a concubine, as long as you can convince your sister Lin," Qin Sheng joked. Du Fei rolled her eyes at Qin Sheng. This was what she learned from Sister Lin. She then said, "It's that the requirements for me to find a boyfriend are getting higher and higher. Now I realize that you're omnipotent. Except for the fact that you can't take care of yourself, you're good at writing with a brush. You can play the guitar and sing. You're good at cooking. You're also very talented in studying philosophy, history, finance, and so on. What do you think I should do? If I can't find a boyfriend in the future, I'll rely on you." Qin Sheng shrugged and said, "There's nothing I can do about it. If it really doesn't work, I'll make do when the time comes. If you're so capable, say it in front of Sister Lin." "Believe it or not, I'll break your third leg," Du Fei threatened fiercely. Qin Sheng immediately admitted defeat and said, "I'm not capable. I'm just saying." Qin Sheng had done a lot of research on history. Whether it was official history, unofficial history, or biographies, the books he had read were no less than those so-called experts. Therefore, when he listened to the lectures, others just listened to them, but Qin Sheng really listened to them. Whether these so-called experts had real knowledge or not, he could understand it once he listened to them. If he encountered those fake and inferior products, Qin Sheng would not say anything and would only use 2 words to attack them. Today, this history expert mainly studied the history of the Song dynasty. He had a lot of insights on the humanities, history, science, and commerce of the Song dynasty, and so on. Qin Sheng listened with great interest, but Du Fei beside him was sleepy. It was not Qin Sheng's fault. The main thing was that she insisted on accompanying Qin Sheng to listen to the lecture, in the name of helping Sister Lin take care of Qin Sheng. At the end of the 2-hour lecture, only 1/3 of the students were left. Qin Sheng sighed with emotion. These days, there were really not many people who were really willing to calm down, and even fewer who could calm down and do things seriously. No wonder they began to miss ingenuity. After coming out of the auditorium, Qin Sheng was ready to go home. His wife had probably prepared lunch and was waiting for him. Du Fei did not have classes, so she followed Qin Sheng home. At first, Qin Sheng chose Shaman University because it was closer to home and, secondly, he could take care of his mother and brother. Du Fei's brother was also good at studying. Moreover, there were 3 top students who would tutor him when they were free. Qin Sheng majored in mathematics and physics, Du Fei majored in Chinese and English, and Lin Su majored in chemistry and biology. Du Fei's brother, Du Feng, gave the 3 of them a nickname, the 3 Devils of Pearl Bay. However, Du Feng chose Tsinghua University. How could he not work hard? Although he always said that it was stressful, he had to work hard for his mother and sister. When Du Fei accompanied Qin Sheng back to the community, an unkind man blocked their way. When Du Fei saw the man, her eyes were full of fear, and she subconsciously hid behind Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng frowned slightly. He had heard from other people in the community that this ex-husband of Aunt Tang used to be a gangster. He did all kinds of things, including eating, drinking, whoring, and gambling. When he had no money, he would ask Aunt Tang for money. He often threatened Du Fei and Du Feng. He had only met him once, when he had just come to Shaman. This was the second time. Fei, why didn't you greet me when you saw me? The man was dressed in fancy clothes. His chest was exposed, and he was wearing slippers. His hair was messy, and he had dark circles under his eyes. There were also 2 scars on his arms. He looked like a bad guy. Du Fei gritted her teeth and asked, "What are you doing here?" The man did not take Qin Sheng, who was a kidnapper, seriously at all. He said with a cheeky smile, "What do you think I'm here for? Of course, I missed the 3 of you." Qin Sheng did not say anything. He just looked at the man calmly. "I don't have a father like you. Get lost. Don't harass us anymore. I beg you," Du Fei said very angrily. Other people had fatherly love, but for her, she was not willing to mention this man at all, let alone see him. The man was very unhappy and said, "No matter what, I'm still your father. How can you talk to your father like this? You unfilial daughter, if you want to get lost, I can. Ask your mother to give me another 20,000 yuan. I'm short of money recently. Are you a man or not? My mother has been divorced with you for so many years. You still don't let her go. Last time, she gave you 20,000 yuan. You said that was the last time. What else do you want?" Du Fei roared when she heard this. This man had taken a lot of money from her mother all these years. He was unscrupulous. If her mother did not give him the money, he would threaten her and her brother. Her mother had no choice but to compromise for them. If she had the ability, Du Fei really wanted to send this man to prison. She even wanted to kill this man in anger. But thinking of her mother and brother, she finally gave up. The man was still smiling. He did not take it seriously at all. He said happily, "Didn't I lose some money recently? Don't worry, this is definitely the last time." "Get lost," Du Fei scolded angrily. Then she helped Qin Sheng to go upstairs. The man directly blocked their way and said, "If you want to go in, you can ask your mother to give you money first. Otherwise, you know the consequences." Du Fei still wanted to say something, but she was pulled behind by Qin Sheng. It was the first time that she had seen such a spineless and shameless man. A man could be cowardly if he did not have the ability. But if he bullied his wife and children, he really could not be called a man. You have refreshed my understanding of the word shameless. Look at your cowardly look. If it were me, I would go out and get hit by a car immediately and die," Qin Sheng said, squinting his eyes. The man stared at Qin Sheng fiercely and said, "F***, I'm talking to my daughter. Who do you think you are? You are a cripple, and you still want to meddle in other people's business. Believe it or not, I will make you suffer. Let me give you a kind reminder. Get out of my eyes immediately. Don't let me see you in the future. Otherwise, I will definitely make you regret it," Qin Sheng said word by word. F***, you are still angry. I asked you to meddle in other people's business. When a man heard Qin Sheng's words, he was completely angry. He directly rushed to Qin Sheng and kicked Qin Sheng's abdomen. Qin Sheng supported himself with a crutch and jumped backward directly. The man followed up with a punch aimed at Qin Sheng's face. Qin Sheng dodged it calmly. Then, unexpectedly, he picked up the crutch and smashed it directly on the man's face. The man's face instantly split open and blood flowed out. A skinny camel was bigger than a horse. Moreover, Qin Sheng had already begun to recover. Dealing with this kind of clown was just a piece of cake. Before the man came back to his senses, Qin Sheng raised his walking stick again and hit the man's back with it. Although Qin Sheng's strength was not as good as before, he was not weaker than ordinary people. The man was directly hit to the ground. Du Fei, who was standing behind Qin Sheng, was frightened. She looked stunned. She did not expect Qin Sheng to be so good at fighting. This was still under the situation that his legs were not good. The most important thing was that Qin Sheng was not afraid at all when facing such a scum. Qin Sheng would not let the man go so easily. He slowly took 2 steps forward and kicked the man's chest with his uninjured foot. The man, who had been hollowed out by wine and women, had no chance to fight back. He curled up on the ground and cried out in pain. Qin Sheng stepped on the man's face with 1 foot and sneered. Remember this lesson. If there's a next time, be careful or I will kill you. After that, Qin Sheng turned around and took Du Fei's hand. Let's go. Du Fei did not come back to her senses at all. She was pulled into the door by Qin Sheng. When the elevator door closed, Du Fei could not bear it anymore. She hugged Qin Sheng and cried bitterly. Chapter 186. Once, and for all, most people wanted to be a child who would never grow up. They didn't need to care about this secular society. They didn't need to bear heavy responsibilities and pressures. They didn't need to live a life they hated. They didn't need to associate with this dirty world. However, some children wanted to grow up quickly. Only in this way could they protect their loved ones and let go of everything they had to bear. Du Fei, who always liked to tie her hair in a ponytail, was one of them. Her father perfectly explained the meaning of the word scum. He was good at eating, drinking, whoring, and gambling. Every time he got drunk, he would beat her mother in them. This kind of life was a nightmare. When she was in junior high school, her mother finally couldn't stand this kind of life and divorced her. Her mother was from Jiangxi. When she was young, she married a shaman. Now, she was divorced and living with 2 children. Anyone could understand that kind of hardship. In order to raise her 2 children, her mother set up a stall, did foot massage, and so on. A few years ago, with the help of a friend, she started a small business. Only then did her life change. Otherwise, she would not be able to raise her 2 children. Du Fei and Du Feng worked hard. They were among the best in their studies since they were young. They never let their mother down. Du Fei was admitted to Shaman University. Du Feng's goal was to enter Tsinghua University. However, when their lives started to improve, that scumbag came back to harass them. He beat her mother, demanded money from her mother, threatened her family, and did everything that a scumbag could do. There was one time when they owed tens of thousands of dollars in gambling debt. The creditor chased them all the way to their house and threatened her mother that if she did not pay up, he would send Du Fei to a bath center to be a prostitute. Every time, her mother compromised for their sake. However, this man became more and more aggressive. This time, he came again. Unfortunately, he met Qin Sheng and learned his lesson. When the elevator arrived at their floor, Du Fei was almost done crying. She wiped away her tears, raised her head, and said delicately, "Brother Qin, thank you. We are neighbors. This is what I should do. Well, go home quickly. Don't let your mother see you like this." Qin Sheng patted Du Fei's shoulder and smiled. Du Fei looked up and gave Qin Sheng a bright smile. Then she turned around and went home. When Qin Sheng entered the door, Lin Su, who was wearing an apron, was making a nourishing soup. When they were eating, Qin Sheng told Lin Su about what happened downstairs. Lin Su frowned slightly, but did not say that Qin Sheng was a busybody. She knew Qin Sheng's temper very well. Your body has not recovered yet. There are other ways to deal with people like that, Lin Su said casually. It was also a kind reminder to Qin Sheng. To Lin Su, nothing was more important than Qin Sheng's health. Qin Sheng smiled and nodded as he said, I will pay more attention next time. I won't be so impulsive. This kind of person is shameless and has no bottom line. We still have to be more careful. You hit him today. He might take revenge on you tomorrow, Lin Su said thoughtfully. She did not want any more accidents to happen to Qin Sheng. Lin Su did not want Qin Sheng to get involved in anything while she was recuperating in Shaman. Qin Sheng said casually, Uncle Zhuang is not coming to Shaman tomorrow. I will tell him. Last time, he said he had many friends in Shaman. I will find some friends to teach this scumbag a lesson. This kind of scumbag is not afraid of ordinary people, let alone Annie Tang and her family of 3. However, if he meets someone more powerful and ruthless than him, he will be afraid. This society is full of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. That will work. After all, Annie Tang has helped us a lot, Lin Su nodded quietly. Normally, Du Fei helped to take care of Qin Sheng at school. She accompanied Qin Sheng to listen to lectures, helped him search for the map of Shaman University for free classes, and so on. If she was busy, Qin Sheng would freeload at Annie Tang's house. In the afternoon, Lin Su sent Qin Sheng to a rehabilitation medical center in Shaman. It was the best rehabilitation center in Shaman. These were all arranged by Zhuang Zhou. Qin Sheng had been there before, but it was only to check on his recovery. This time, he was going to do machine exercises. Lin Su was familiar with Dr. Zhao, who was in charge of Qin Sheng. If Qin Sheng felt uncomfortable, Lin Su would immediately contact Dr. Zhao. Dr. Zhao, I will leave him to you. If he is not obedient, you can teach him a lesson. Lin Su joked with Dr. Zhao. Dr. Zhao was in his 30s. He was young, rich, and unmarried. When he first met Lin Su, he was shocked. However, Lin Su announced to the public that she was married, so Dr. Zhao could only get along with her as a friend. However, he was very envious of Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was forthright and interesting. He and Dr. Zhao had long called each other brothers, and they got along very well. Hearing Lin Su's words, Qin Sheng muttered, I am not a 3-year-old child. Listen to Dr. Zhao. I will pick you up later, Lin Su said. Anyone could see how loving this couple was. Maybe this was a blessing in disguise. After Lin Su left, in the equipment center, Dr. Zhao looked at the equipment in front of him and asked, Lao Qin, do you know how to use these? Some I know, some I don't. I used to go to the gym often, Qin Sheng answered truthfully. Dr. Zhao, who was very handsome in a white coat, said slowly, Since you know, that is even better. However, you have to listen to me on how to exercise. Although your body is recovering very well and is much stronger than ordinary people, I hope that you will not be eager for quick success. Follow my instructions step by step and gradually increase the intensity. I believe that in 3 months, you will recover to the same state as before. Do you believe me? Yes. Qin Sheng did not believe in Dr. Zhao, but he believed in himself. Dr. Zhao smiled and said, That is good. Let's start. In just 2 hours, Dr. Zhao was very satisfied with Qin Sheng's performance. Dr. Zhao had never seen a patient with such endurance and tenacity as Qin Sheng. He had never seen a patient who could recover so well after suffering such a serious injury. Firstly, Qin Sheng enjoyed the best medical conditions. The medicine and equipment he used were all the most advanced in the world. Secondly, Qin Sheng's heart was strong. In the afternoon, when Lin Su came to pick Qin Sheng up, Dr. Zhao praised Qin Sheng a lot. Lin Su was very pleased after hearing that. After sending Qin Sheng home, she went out to do her work. Qin Sheng took a shower and rested for a while. In the evening, Lin Su went out to meet Lin Yu. Qin Sheng had dinner at Aunt Tang's house. Today was the weekend, so Aunt Tang's family of 3 were at home. Du Feng hurriedly finished the dinner and went to do exercises. This young man was very thin and looked very weak. Qin Sheng suggested that he should not read books, but read more extracurricular books to broaden his knowledge. which was helpful for thinking and divergent thinking. Only Qin Sheng, Aunt Tang, and Du Fei were at the dining table. Aunt Tang's dinner was very sumptuous. Because Du Fei told her what had happened at noon, Aunt Tang treated Qin Sheng as a reward. Qin Sheng, Fei Fei has told me about what happened at noon. Thank you so much, Aunt Tang said sincerely. Although Aunt Tang was just over 50, she looked a little old. She had suffered too much and suffered too much in these years. Every time Du Fei saw the wrinkles on her mother's face and the calluses on her hands, her eyes would turn red. That was because she had seen her mother's photos when she was young. She was absolutely a beauty. Otherwise, she would not have such a beauty like her and a handsome brother like her. Qin Sheng did not expect that Du Fei would tell Aunt Tang about it. He said embarrassedly, Aunt Tang, it's just a small thing. You don't have to be so polite. After all, we are neighbors. Since Lin Su and I moved into this community, you have helped us a lot. Qin Sheng, it's different. Anyway, I have to thank you, Aunt Tang insisted. She was afraid of making trouble for Qin Sheng, so she felt guilty. What Aunt Tang said made Qin Sheng feel a little embarrassed. It could be seen how afraid Aunt Tang was of that scumbag. Qin Sheng felt sorry for her family. Aunt Tang's life was also hard. Qin Sheng, Du Jiang is a man who always seeks revenge. I'm afraid that if you beat him this time, he will make trouble for you later. You and Lin Su just came a shaman, and you are not familiar with the people in the place. Besides, you are like this, I'm really worried, Aunt Tang said earnestly. After all, she knew her ex-husband very well. He had been to the police station many times. Moreover, he was close to the police station nearby. She had called the police many times, but nothing happened. Qin Sheng saw that Aunt Tang's eyes were a little flickering. He really did not know how this scumbag bullied Aunt Tang all these years. Qin Sheng had already made up his mind. This time, he must help Aunt Tang to get rid of this scourge. Aunt Tang, don't worry. Even if he doesn't make trouble for me, I will definitely find him. This time, I will help you vent your anger, so that he will not dare to bully you in the future, Qin Sheng said firmly. Aunt Tang looked at Qin Sheng in disbelief. Du Fei said excitedly, Brother Qin, do you have a way to deal with him? Qin Sheng smiled and said nothing. This kind of thing was really not a big deal for him. What was bad people afraid of? Bad people were not afraid of good people, but they were afraid of bad people who were worse than them. After dinner, Qin Sheng walked alone by the seaside. There were not many tourists here, so there were not many people on the beach. When Qin Sheng saw the sea for the first time, he understood the sentence that Su Wei sang in the song, every time you are sad, you should look at the sea alone. After walking, he went back to Spring Breeze. The business was still the same. Qin Sheng greeted the staff and was ready to sit in his old seat. However, he did not expect that this seat was occupied by someone today. The person sitting here was not someone else, but the uncle who chatted with him last night. The uncle ordered a cup of coffee, but left it beside him. He brought a teapot to drink tea, which made the staff in the store unable to help laughing. And could not help but run over to remind the uncle, Uncle, there is no minimum consumption here. You don't need to order anything next time, and we will not drive you away. The uncle just smiled and said, It was not easy to do business. Qin Sheng smiled and sat down. Uncle, you are here again. The uncle said casually, The scenery here is beautiful and lively. I'm bored staying alone, so I come out to wander. I can also chat with you. Qin Sheng did not have any objection to this. He replied, Okay, you can come to me when you are bored in the future. I'm basically here at night. The uncle asked casually, Why didn't I see your girlfriend today? Qin Sheng explained, She has something to do tonight. She will be here soon. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.